Hello, chess friends. Welcome to the chat room. All right, we will open our little study here. Learn, study, my studies, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Is our stream, are we live yet? Is anyone here? Let me check. If there's any problems, looks like we might have a little bit of drop frames. Open performance window. Your stream quality is sure it's good. Sure it's good. Your stream quality is good. Says Streamlabs. Analysis with subs Thursday. lichesS.org. I'm not seeing anything here. Mr. Coffee, are you seeing anything? Is it just my computer is like sort of handicapped? It says live, but I don't know. What's up, Snuggles the Snail? Snuggles the Snail, hello. It looks good there. Alright, so it's just my computer. My computer acting a little funky. It's been on all day. I haven't given a chance to rest. It may just be my machine being a little slow. Alright. Doesn't mean it looks bad everywhere, because my machine is slow. Good to know. We're doing subscriber stream. I'm sorry, everybody. Not so much Mr. Coffee, because you're not usually here for Thursdays, but I am sorry, everybody, that I had to bail on my Thursday stream, because I had to do something in the morning, and then by the time I got back, I just hadn't slept well the night before, so it just felt like, hey, I should take the day off. I need a little rest. Nothing major. An appointment and just being tired in general, so I decided to bail on the Thursday stream. We haven't been here since Tuesday, when I collapsed in our Tuesday tournament. But anyway, that was a tough tournament. Mr. Coffee, welcome. Goju, Mickey. Mickey just submitted a game. I really hope it's not our game from Tuesday. Share, like, anything else. Maybe, like, nothing bad. No. Alright. Yeah, I was concerned that my my computer's been on all day, hasn't been restarted or anything. It might be funky tonight, but looks good. Alright, we've got Ripun. A bunch of players, their games don't go in the study because they submit the games and they're like, I'm not a member of their study, or they're like private. So a lot of times it's hard to put the games into my study. I have Asterbait versus Chestnut 9-6. Is that right? Arsenal submitted a game over on... Let me get Arsenal's game. He submitted a game over on Twitch, which is more tricky for me to grab it, but it should be alright. Considering my Twitch stream is so slow. Why is my Twitch so slow? It takes me forever to load the Twitch page. I'm glad you guys don't have that problem. Alright, Acerbate's in there. Copy. Copy. Paste. Let's see if this works. I guess. Will Arsenal's game go in? Yes. It's going in. Alright. There we go. Today is November 18th. My internet seems slow. Maybe it really is slow. But we got Arsenal's game in. That's good. Here. Did we... Why is it showing? Okay. That was weird. Stream looks fine. Yeah, I mean, my ping is only 71, but it feels very laggy. Like my whole internet connection feels super slow motion. Not sure. So I've got Repun, Mule Skinner, Arsenal, Asterbait, Move 11, Cheesemate, and Mickey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 of which are in. And I don't know if Cheesemate is here, but Cheesemate, you said it was the game versus Morse. Let me know if Cheesemate is online. I wanted to ask him a question. B-Jock? No. We'll add you. Of course you're not in there. Are you kidding? Yeah, why is opening a new window so slow? It's like, whoa. Massively slow motion. Is it just my very slow computer? It's like reminding me of internet from the 90s. One page to load takes half an hour. Game for analysis. Alright, Sumer, I just got your game. Grabbing it now. Strange, I thought I remembered doing that already, but I guess not. That's 8 games. Just clicking on stuff takes half an hour. What is that? What I don't understand is like, alright. So if I'm clicking on stuff and it takes half an hour for a page to load, how is my ping 71 or 61? That's why you challenged me? Oh. Yeah, I was wondering. That's so funny. No, I didn't get it. I'm too dense to figure that out. I just figured you were challenging me, thinking I was going to do a stream or something. I'm too dense to figure it out. Good try, though. Alright, Simher is in there in the middle. Somewhere with Asterbait. So we've got 8 games. That didn't help me see the message, though. It just made me think you wanted to challenge me. Welcome everyone to the stream. Mr. Coffee, Asterbait, Mickey. Who else is here? B-Jock. Snuggles the Snail. Who else is lurking? We haven't had a game from Mr. Slow for a while. He must be working on Thursday nights. Jan Dingeman. Aten is oftentimes lurking. Actually, I haven't seen Alms in forever. Dodgy Tactics, aka Yabatis, with no game for this week. Goiju. And then Mickey and Snuggles the Snail. Alright. This is games for subscribers, so I'm not taking submissions from random new people. Next time I'm sending the mail. ST Brown said, what's happening? Nothing. I'm trying to stay awake. It's been a long day. Lots of lessons today, and now our subscriber stream. Okay, so Repun submitted a game against me. This is going to be our first game for today. He likes to submit games against me, which drives me crazy, but we'll take a look. Alright, so this is Repun, who's probably, not here because it's late for him. E4, C5, Knight F3, Knight F6. I don't play the Nimzovich, aka Rubinstein variation. Really? I've never played this in a single over-the-board game or studied it, but just to throw Repun off, I decided to throw something, different. E5, and now, somewhere along the line, I had this weird idea of playing Knight G8. And I compared this to the, Brooklyn variation of the Alekhine. I think statistically, it's like, maybe like as good as or better than the Brooklyn variation of the Alekhine. It's just something random. If you ever wanted to just play something totally bizarre, you could play Knight G8. Alright, anyway. 95, and now, I figured, okay, Repun doesn't react well to systems that he doesn't know. That's why I played this. But he played c3. That's kind of like the same thing as the, you know, the Mora Gambit now. I've just been transposed to a c3 Sicilian. It was kind of a smart move. You don't know the theory. Transpose is something maybe you've seen before. So now black has nothing fancy. It's just a c3 Sicilian. I never thought of doing that with white personally. The other move for white that's reasonable is knight c3. Obviously, this would allow black, other transpositions like knight c6. d5 is kind of the main move there. But I mean, clearly e5 is critical. So welcome everyone. Please don't be shy to donate. Support the stream by subscribing during these times of high inflation. Just a reminder. Knight d5, c3. Okay, so now this is kind of a weird move order for me. But I decided to play knight c6. I've played this position many times. Usually e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, c3, knight f6, e5, knight d5 would be my move order to reach this position. I've had, for example, a tournament game against Vita Levante years ago. Other players, actually Levy's sister as well. The Vita family. Is Hungary suffering from inflation? Mr. Coffee, everywhere is suffering from inflation. I saw someone posting on Facebook. The right-wing people in America are blaming Joe Biden, but the truth is that the entire world is suffering from inflation. It's not like it's not a one country thing. It's like worldwide. I mean, absolutely. It's not an exclusively American thing, although there's a lot of people who would like you to probably believe that. No. Inflation is definitely international. So, yeah, COVID after effects, I guess. Supply chain crap and like that. But I also think it's like companies, and not just American companies, but like I read an article about it today. Big companies are just taking advantage by raising prices. Even though they don't have to. And that's one defense of capitalism. Monopolies, the more monopolistic an industry is, the more they can not have to worry about competition and take advantage of you. When there's not enough competition, they can just fix the prices however they want. So c takes d4, d6, bishop c4, knight b6. This is main line. I just mentioned Vita Levante's sister, Sidonia. I don't know if she's on the women's team. I'm not sure if she's on the Hungarian team in the European Team Championship for Hungary or not. She used to be. But she played the main line, bishop e5 against me. I didn't have this position with Levy. I think against Levante, for whatever reason, I played e6. Oh, Sidonia is actually first board. Okay. Maybe she is playing. Normally, Huang Trong would be playing. I don't know where she's at. She's like a men's grandmaster for Hungary. One of my former teammates. But bishop c4 against Levy, I played e6. Against Sidonia, I played knight b6. I don't think. Maybe I did have a game with Vita Levante in this and I lost and I forgot about it. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I tuned it out or something. I tend to put things out of my mind. Bishop e5 is main line. D takes e5. But here, Ripun just plays some random move. I mean, I never saw anyone play bishop takes c6. I think that Vita Levante stopped playing this line because it got kind of played to death. Even though it's not bad, it's too easy for black to find some forced variation that leads to kind of a draw. But this is an interesting gambit that's more complicated. Mickey also plays the c3 Sicilian, so I thought you might know this. This weird gambit with bishop e3. D takes e5, d5, knight a5. And I've had some kind of weird games in this, where if black tries to play f6, he can get in some danger. Knight c3, for example, f6. Like theoretically, this line has a good result for black. Anyways, so we have something very strange here. Knight b6. You're supposed to play bishop b5. Bishop b3 is interesting. He plays bishop b5, and now he has to play knight takes. Excuse me, knight takes e5. But Ripon took here, which can't be right. You know, you're like trading your good bishop unprovoked on c6. The question would be why. He's just playing it because, you know, he doesn't really know the theory and he's making quick moves. So now take, and my first thought is that, I mean, honestly, this pawn on c6 is weak anyway, and if I lose that pawn, I mean, this diagonal could clear. So I don't know that white really wants to take that pawn. I don't know if a lot of players would play something like, for example, queen d5, but then he gets away. You know, I don't really like the idea of him getting away. So I played simply bishop a6, keeping his king trapped in the center. You see here there's a lichesS game from 2000. You would do knight f6, queen f3. Are you talking about that, or that City lost to Elizabeth Pates today? Well, Elizabeth is a strong player. That's not really a surprise. She's one of the top-rated women, so. All right. Yeah, Slaggy comes from Sage. The name is actually connected. All right. Bishop a6 here. So I played exactly like Alex did. e6. And now white plays queen f3, your favorite move. What's up, Tezake? I mean, the problem is that white is trapped in the center and black has a monster white squared bishop. I would prefer black here. And now queen c7, what else am I supposed to play? And like Ripon made some kind of weird comment like during the game. He was like, why did you like sacrifice the pawn on c6 or something? I was kind of like, well, what other option did I have? I mean, anyway, black has full compensation here. I try to explain to the guy that, I mean, this is materialistic play by white. This pawn is fine. You know, have the pawn. It's weak anyway. I mean, you're trapped with your king in the center of the board. That's enough compensation for the pawn to begin with. I think that Ripon thought because he could trade queens, he was okay. I mean, maybe that's true. You know, he should probably play queen c6 right away. Queen c6, queen c6, knight c6. This is a game. I don't know. I guess this is like an Olympic game, Canada versus somewhere. But bishop e7. Compensation for sacrificed pawn. Oops, sorry. d5. Black has perfectly good compensation. This 2400 got a draw against Alex. But you know, that's still the best move for white. So white manages to equalize, but instead Ripon played bishop e3. And now I didn't defend my pawn because I'm not a big believer in defending, like, you know, pawns passively. I didn't think I had to. My main concern is that I'm a minute behind on the clock here. So I don't really mind losing this pawn. It's a weak pawn anyway. It kind of gets in the way. I have a lot of different options. I don't like my rook. You know, if you take the pawn, the rook has an open file, but this position of my rook is not great, you know. Generally speaking, I'd rather lose a pawn and have active pieces than then put my pieces on like past those squares. So that's why I didn't defend the pawn. So here I have total compensation. Queen c6, queen c6, knight c6. Objectively, black is better in this position. The knight is, only a couple of squares. I played f6, taking away the knight's retreat square. And I don't know what white should do, but he should think about his king position. But instead he starts attacking me. Knight e4, king d7. This was a time pressure. I have 47 seconds. And I don't want to trade my bishop on e7. That doesn't do a lot. So I figured this was a tempo. He trades. And now we have an interesting situation. If I take on c6, he has knight e4, knight c5 blocking the c file. No, maybe I'm too much not a believer in material, but what I liked about this position was even though I'm down a pawn, I would rather, have the initiative. So opposite color bishops gives me winning chances. I'd rather have opposite color bishops than the same color bishops if there's other pieces on the board. There's always a more dynamic situation. The truth is that white is just about hanging on in this game. He found perfect moves with way more time than me. Now king d2. Very surprising move, by the way. Maybe king d2 is actually a blunder. I certainly wouldn't play king d2. If I was white, I would probably play f3. And on knight c4, I put my king on f2. And I'll try to hang on if I can hang on. Or, maybe bishop c1 followed by king f2. I mean, whatever. But I think f2 is a sensible place to put the white king. On the dark square and connect your rooks. Instead he goes here. This is insane. I mean, you've got to be out of your mind to put your king on d2 here. That's crazy, So now I go check, and he's got to go back because the c file is too dangerous. This is the first game for tonight. No, I mean, this is a crazy move. Actually, just b3, come to think of it. I mean, maybe just b3, stopping my knight from coming in. But black still has enough compensation for the sacrificed pawn. The computer is giving me 0.0. I have better king, opposite color bishops, control the c file, slightly better coordination. But this is crazy, so now I'm better. Knight c4 check, king e1, and I took the pawn, and then rook b1, and I guess here I have the problem with time. 19 seconds, and my opponent has 2 minutes and 24 seconds. We have an increment, but still, I have no time to think. I could just react. So right now, I decided to simplify to be on the safe side, but it looks like it's probably a mistake. Black, black's bishop could come under attack, but there is no real good discovery for white. So it looks like objectively I could just play maybe knight a4 or something. I mean, he doesn't have a good square he can discover. The only discovery he has is knight c2, and it's actually not really good. So this is just blitz panic mode. I played this and it's a draw probably. Check, king d2. This is a really heads up move, by the way. I mean, probably you could take and bishop, takes and rook down, but then black has counterplay. So I mean, for me this is a very strong move. King d2, takes, and now he's threatening a4. So I guess this is kind of where I blundered. Yeah. Now I blundered. I should play bishop c6. And it's probably equal. Objectively. Bishop c6 guards b7 and then this. But what I did was instead I put the bishop on a6, which was a tragic mistake. I guard this, but I become, first of all, victim to this. And I ended up in a very awkward situation. Rook b1, rook c8, rook b3, rook c6, bishop f4 check, and then this is extremely suspicious. Now I'm kind of tied up, and he can put his bishop on b8. This was crazy. He finds it in a couple moves. I literally forced it now. I mean, he only has two moves, this or this. Or bishop e3, but bishop e3 is square, is passive square. I mean, this is an insanely strong move. Now my rook is like trapped in the corner. If black has time, you could wiggle your way out, but with like 12 seconds left, I thought I was going to lose. And I'm just paralyzed. So, he improved his king, and then made this strange move d5. But I don't think there's anything for him. I'm able to get my bishop to d3. He has to actually be careful about his king. It looks like objectively it's still a draw. But he managed to find a way to lose, trying to flag me. In this position, it's a dead draw. But he ended up losing his a6 pawn. And now only white can lose. So at this point, white has to be careful, but it's still a draw. There is a possibility of g3 falling, and there's a possibility of me queening this pawn, so it's like principle of two weaknesses. It's not that simple. White should, at this point, realize the danger, play king c5, bring the king back over here, and then put his bishop on a square where it can go to h4. The key is to like put your bishop on h4. You blockade the a pawn with your king and you put your bishop on h4, and then you can move your king or bishop back and forth. If you don't put your bishop on that diagonal, see, the thing is, my king can penetrate down here. So you do something like bishop e1, king e2, bishop somewhere, king f2, and you're losing your g-pawn. If white loses the g-pawn, he may be lost. And that's kind of like what happened. He's just trying to make like mindless moves. And he lets me down here. And now just losing the g-pawn. And it's winning. So, you know, it was a case of white just trying to like win on time. What should have been a drawn position. But a very unorthodox game where my opponent's primary motivation seems to be to flag me. But again, you know, I try to avoid that. Alright guys, welcome to the stream. Guys and girls, because there's lots of girls here. Unfortunately, not enough ladies joining us on the stream. So we've got Princess Chess maybe stopping by later. We'll see. So, Asterbait versus Chestnut96. This is our second game for today. If you're a subscriber, you can drop a game. I've got room for one more. Please don't forget to subscribe and support the stream. Please don't forget to do your subscribing. Gladualdo has followed. Thank you for following. Don't forget to donate and support your favorite chess streamer. I guess that's not me. Alright, Mule Skinner was going to be next. I'm going to do the Asterbait game first, since we're here. Asterbait White. Asterbait VIP. 30-minute classical. Dude, yeah, he's playing these 30-minute classical. Asterbait, stop. Jay Gomez, you can send the game in. Jay Gomez, you can send the game in. You'll be our last one. Thanks for being a subscriber to the stream. Asterbait, why don't you listen and take your time? The problem is Asterbait doesn't look at the clock, so he just plays the same speed no matter what. Asterbait, are you playing in like Zen mode or something where you can't see the clock? Can you like change the settings so you can't see the clock, or do you have to be in Zen mood? Zen mood. I'm in Zen mood tonight. Do you have to be in Zen mood to not see the clock, or can you like remove the clock from the settings? Does he do Berserk? Not always. So it's Scandinavian, e takes d5, queen takes d5. In Zen mode you can still see the clock. Is there any way to turn off the clock? By the way, Cheesemate, I got your message, you know, about which game it was in your study, but something just jumped in my mind. You said your opponent's name was Morse. It's probably a different guy, but it occurred to me, like, I don't remember where it was, but like 25 years ago, I lost to somebody whose name was Morse. I think they were like 2000, rated around 2000. But the guy would have to be an older player, you know, like 65 at least. He's probably a different player. But you just brought back this memory. I had completely put it out of my mind. But this is one of my like upsets. Back in the day, a game I lost against a much lower rated player. I don't remember where it was or exactly what the circumstance is, but I just clearly remember losing to somebody whose name was Morse. I don't remember if it was in New Jersey or in Boston or where it was, and they were rated like around 2000. Nah, this dude's 1600. Okay, but that came back to me. I always like put out my losses from my memory. All right, very common name. Queen takes d5, c4, and now Astrobate has his own system. With what? How does it go, Astrobate? Hold on a second here. c4. Wait a minute, Astrobate. That's not your normal move. This is something new. Wait, let's do Astrobate player search. Great feature, by the way. We can do... I don't know. I was looking for that opening we had the other day for Mickey. This is Astrobate. I need to change this. Where's Astrobate? Astrobate. Astrobate as white. See, I don't think he's ever played this before. No, 7 games. Astrobate Chestnut. Wow, he has a perfect record. They're all of them. 1489, 1469, 15, 16, 17. Damn, Astrobate, you won 7-0 with the Astrobate variation. Check the Astrobate, 7-0. Damn, dude, that's an impressive score. Alright, let's turn that off. Queen e4 check. My friend Juan Mayado, my bingo buddy, we went to play bingo together. The only time I've ever gone to play bingo. Alright, Jay Gomez. Queen e2 was played by Juan, but I don't think that Astrobate's going to go for Queen e2. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So clearly, c4 is kind of an interesting move. It's actually shocking how few games there are here with c4. That's kind of unbelievable. And pretty much like Lazic and Juan are the only good players to ever play this. That's pretty unbelievable. How bad can c4 be, really? I mean, you got this move with tempo. Can't be bad. Wow, Queen e4 check is the best move. Famous last words, it can't be bad. The engine says it's just bad. Wow. So I get it, you have to sack a pawn. Ah, that's why it's a mistake. So Juan actually had to trade queens or sack a pawn, and he decided to trade queens. Queen e2, knight e2. Right. No, you have to play d4 first. I'm surprised that like black's better. You would think, okay, it's an inaccuracy. It would be like equal now. But it's actually better for black. Wow. The other option is to straight up sack a pawn like Astrobate did. I mean, I think this is okay for like a blitz game. Knight e2 looks dubious. I mean, I think that's maybe another move that's not bad gambit for. Look at the analysis engine here. Stockfish is claiming Like, this is serious. Stockfish is claiming 0.4. So ironically, like, this might actually be white's best line if we force it to analyze deeper. Queen takes c4, sacking a pawn. d4. I think the Danish Gambit crew would probably like this for white. I know someone on sound would love this. Knight f6, knight on bc3. You know the Danish Gambit players are like, yeah, this is totally fine. We have compensation. So that's weird. Like, okay, so 0.7, and if you do like Mayado did, what's the analysis after queen e2? So it says it's like 0.8 better for white if you don't lose a pawn. Dude, that's disturbing. Not losing a pawn is like plus 1.1. It's dropping now. But you might as well just lose the pawn. Wow. Now it's going up to 0.7. It's indifferent. So this is basically about as good as losing the c or sacrificing the c4 pawn, according to Stockfish. Interesting. So Astrobait, don't do this anymore. Cheesemate is right. Like, it's better to do d4, and then you could play for c4 on the next move. Now, obviously, if black plays knight c6, you don't have the option to play c4. So you can go back into an Astromate type of setup. But the truth is that maybe Astrobate just got excited and forgot, you know, his move order or something. This is a strong move by black. He knows queen e4 check, bishop e2. So this variation is interesting, though. I mean, I think I did this in an offhand blitz game with white once. Not that long ago. One of my anonymous games. There was bishop f3, queen g6, or if it wasn't me, I saw it somewhere. It's not sound, but it's like sound for a blitz game. This is the game. No, I played this once in blitz, and the computer was like, you don't have compensation, dude. You're smoking crack. I was like, come on. But again, we're at like 0.6. So it actually isn't that clear, like, how do you choose your move here? Pretty much like all three moves lead to pretty much the same evaluation. Like, you can sack the pawn two different ways or play queen e2, but all variations end up around the same evaluation. Queen g6 and now d4. With some practical compensation, but not really. I think the biggest issue is white's king. You know, like, where is white's king going to go? Where is white's king ever going to be completely, really safe? You've opened up the queen side, your king side is denuded, and the center isn't safe either. Yeah, that Arsenal, that's the other line we looked at, and they're all about the same. White has vague compensation, pretty much the same as this position. Yeah, it's interesting. But the problem is that black didn't clamp down on d4. So the engine likes e5 here. I mean, this is an important square. Don't do this again, Astrobait. But once white gets in d4, he at least has some good control of the center. I mean, this move looks reasonable. But really, there's no threat. You know, it's not like bishop c2 is a threat. And he's hanging b7. Actually, he's just hanging b7. Never mind. I don't think that's a good move. Sorry, I'm just getting my bearings here. This doesn't work, Holmes. I mean, he has bishop takes b7. Yeah, interesting. No, that doesn't really qualify as a good move for black. Astrobait, let's check Astrobait's time usage. So on bishop f5, you spent 18 seconds. No, there's no... This is nothing, you know. Just play f3. No, astrobate, but queen b3 might be a good move as well. This is also not bad. Is it possible that queen b3 is winning for white? Like, there's just no way to defend b7? No, I mean, black can play this. This is the problem. Knight on bd7, and then you play rook b8. This is not clear. No. Astrobate dropped the ball. You have to take that right away. No, otherwise now he can play a reasonable gambit. Only this move. But that's good enough. White's better, but it's playable for black. Clearly. Queen b3, and then this just loses. Queen b7, and it forks with check. Rook c8, and then, yeah, I don't know about this position. Obviously, king d8 is black's best move. He opted for bishop d7 instead, and then got mated. Not a very clean game, Astrobate. You know, aesthetic finish, but when are you going to start taking your time? You know, you're a bad influence on the others here. You've got to start taking your time. I'm tired of banging my head on the wall. I'm not going to accept your games anymore unless you use at least half your time. Alright. We got to start making some kind of rules to force Astrobate to change his evil ways. Next game, we're going to go to Richard Smith, who's here in the house. Then I've got Mule Skinner. I haven't seen Mule Skinner in the chat, though. Maybe Mule Skinner is just going to watch the replay. Guys, also check out the YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. I put the replays up there. I'm not a big fan of YouTube these days. They've been pissing me off, but if you do want to see the streams from old streams, you can always check out my YouTube channel. And if you didn't subscribe, please do so over on YouTube. Alright, anyway, this is Richard Smith. Richard. Richie Rich. Richie Rich Rapport. I like how a lot of people, they think his name is Rappaport. Admittedly, Rapport is a very strange name. I don't know how that's a Hungarian name. Whatever. Rapport. E4. Richard is white. Yeah, we got plays on words. Where's move 11? He's the word. He's a word expert. Word is the bird. So, stream tomorrow, guys. Sorry I missed my Wednesday stream, but I was extremely tired Wednesday morning. Needed to get a little nap in. And had an appointment in the morning, so it was tough. So Arsenal faces the hyper-accelerated dragon and plays c3, which is a main line. And I've played this with white too. To be honest, my results with this haven't been great for either side. Actually, when I looked up that game from Mickey on Tuesday, I noticed, Mickey, you normally have played c3 a bunch of games. That's what I kind of expected you to play. So, but I mean, c3 is a solid variation. You can also throw in bishop c4. One thing that Vitalevente's brother, who doesn't play really, Albert, his older brother, who's an IM, played bishop c4 against me. This is kind of a tricky line. I think this is pretty dangerous. Like a hybrid c3, the hybrid c3, what's it called, Bodler attack. I played this with white against Eric Kishlik, and even that didn't go well. It's like whatever I do with either color in these variations goes badly. I don't remember. I guess I drew with Kishlik. Weird. So Arsenal, that's a serious option. I mean, bishop c4 is a good move. The idea is like e6, d4, cd4, and Albert played knight takes d4 against me. I was like surprised. I ended up like beating Levy's brother. This is like back in 2004 or something. From a bad position. I think the game's probably in the opening explorer, but like I was surprised at the board when he played knight takes d4 because I just assumed white's gonna play like c takes d4. But there's knight takes d4 with the idea of like using the b5 square. You can see that white has quite a good score here. Lots of wins in the opening explorer. Another option for black that should be taken seriously is like d6. I think we had games like that. We actually had a game like that against Arsenal himself. I'm not sure if it was with bishop c4 or not. We had something like where I played d6 against you. With black. Alright, so instead we go into like the main line. This is like main line. Gingy used to argue that if like the knight was back on g1 and the bishop's back on f8, he liked it even better for white because there was some variation. There was some variation where you could go like bishop e5 check, bring the bishop back to e2, and guard your pawn with bishop f3. With the knight in f3, white maybe has like slightly less options. On the other hand, this bishop on f8, you know, could sometimes come out that diagonal if you don't play bishop g7. So pawn takes pawn from Arsenal. Okay, pawn takes pawn is a main variation. It's actually a kind of Caro-Kann, likely a Caro-Kann Panov transposition. But e5 is clearly, you know, the number one most popular system. It's obviously a totally different style of game. But I would make the point that, again, like Roman's argument was these positions here, if we take away knight f3, if you could get c3, g6, this is better. d5 here, pawn takes pawn, bishop g7. How would it go? I guess knight f3 is out. Knight c3, knight f6, bishop e5 check. Knight on bd7. d6. This was this line that he analyzed very deeply. Pawn takes pawn, and this bishop actually comes back to e2 and to f3. This variation, queen e2 check, queen e7, bishop f4, queen e2, bishop e2. Like, Gingy had a game against Michael Rode or something where he lost with black, trying to defend this position after bishop f3. Black is just like slightly worse in this endgame. But it really doesn't matter for Arsenal fan because you're not playing c3 on move 2. It really is pointless to try to argue that. You know, he's not trying to play the Alapin straight up. He's playing it only on move 3. So now bishop there, d4 takes. You can also transpose to the wonderful Smith-Morra. Pawn takes pawn, d5. I think this is the best move. But anyway, okay, this is playable. E takes d. I think black's okay here. Knight f6, now queen b3. You know, in that d6 sack line we just looked at, black can just flat out give up an entire pawn with castling. And I think that might be the better path for black. But I'm not an expert. So now I've never seen this move, queen b3 here. That's new to me. I've probably only played this line with black, and typically people play bishop e5 check. Black plays knight on bd7. Actually, I had a game with Cheesemates from Maine. I had a game with another Maine player, Jared Bryan. I don't know if he still lives in Maine, but he's like a FIDE master. He used to live in Maine. Jared Bryan played this against me with white, I think. I think I beat him in a Mass Open or New England Open years and years and years ago with like bishop e5 check, d6, takes. This is not as good now. Check, queen e7, bishop f4. The point is queen e2 check. There's no bishop takes e2, bishop f3. And that was Roman's point. So it's like better for white. After bishop e2, king e7, and black is fine. Apparently, like, there's no issues here. Without this bishop able to go to f3 to harass black on that diagonal, black has a comfortable game. That's the main point. Anyway, again, black could probably sack a pawn, like a whole pawn and nothing but the pawn. So help you God. I guess rook e8 is even a move. I'm not sure if that's sound. Rook e8 novelty. Kind of unnecessarily fancy. Queen e7 check. Computer said this is sound too. Malikov used to play the accelerated dragon. Alright. No compensation. Some compensation. But Arsenal did queen b3 right away. So I'm going to turn off the engine here and just think for myself a little bit. You know, what would I do? I mean, the most obvious suggestion is castles, but then after knight c3 we transpose to a kind of Panov. Obviously queen d5 is a possibility, but you have to calculate here, check, bishop e3, and then if castles, there's the classic like bishop f7, rook f7, queen f7, king f7, knight g5 check, king g8, knight takes e4, knight takes e4. What's... I guess that's good for black, actually. That's good for black. Winning. Yeah, so I guess it's possible to play queen takes d5. There's also king f1. But I'm not seeing that white has enough compensation here. You know? What are you going to do after queen takes d5? I'm not of the opinion that white necessarily has much here. Okay, well, let's see. Queen takes d5, bishop c4, here, bishop e3. You're right. You're right to some degree. Castles, okay. Yeah, I've played positions to this, similar to this, without the queen on b3. Maybe there is enough development. Castles, knight c6, knight c3, and then I think queen f5. But black's threatening knight a5. And you're going to have to lose time to deal with the threat of knight a5. I'm not sure your queen is, to make a long story short, I'm not sure your queen is supposed to be on b3 in this type of line. So the engine is calling it like dead even. Or approximately dead even. Anyways, I mean, I think it's interesting. Black can also take with the knight, obviously. And then we transpose to a different line. It's another Panov. Bishop c4, e6. And if bishop g5, maybe queen b6. Maybe even f6. I don't know if this is playable or not. But Neneshev played it in 2002. I mean, again, it's really you know, open to interpretation. But anyway, I guess I've gone too far afield. I mean, black just castled, right? Now we transpose to... This game, I had a similar game against the Kazakh girl who had a very good tournament in the Riga Grand Swiss. I think she made a GN norm or something. I had a game against her with white, but it was a little different. She sacked a pawn with like e6 and got some compensation. I don't think it was the same position, was it? Knight bd7? No. This doesn't look right. Somehow a slightly different position. Bishop c4. Knight b6. Castles. Bishop f5, for example. My game was slightly different. I remember now. It was a line where the knight was back on g1. So I did that. Bishop e2, bishop f3. My position had the ability to play bishop e2, bishop f3. Ali Reza plays good chess. He sucks. No. I mean, I don't really know him that well. I mean, I've only seen a couple of his games. So, yeah, we're going to see. He's obviously one of the best blitz players in the world and very strong. Okay, anyway, knight c3, b6. I don't like b6. You know, it seems like there's a couple of plans here for black. I mean, this looks to me very dangerous, trying to sack a pawn, dude. You can easily get wrecked if you lose the initiative here. So let's think about this for a second. Like, this is the type of thing that she did against me. She did some kind of rook e8 based, like, double or temporary double pawn sack. It was a different position, though, to be fair. I would be wary of this type of e6 pawn sacrifice. The computer doesn't buy it here, though. d6, bishop e6. You're going to grab the pawn on b7 and be like a computer. It doesn't appear that black can really do this with absolute soundness. Maybe that's playable for a blitz game, but it's not quite good enough. You know, another plan that black can try is knight a6. Knight a6 with the idea of queen b6. My point is that black doesn't have to play like b6, bishop b7 to round up this pawn. They can leave the pawn there for a while. Queen b6 could weaken the pawn by knocking out the queen on b3. And then the other knight can come around to c7 or b4 and try to scoop the pawn from over there. The virtue of this is that it weakens less squares. This is a very well-known idea, the most common idea, right? Knight on bd7 going here. But I think this knight a6 is kind of an interesting alternative concept. My friend Charles Hurtan, he was a big fan of the Caro-Kann. He liked to play like this with black. You know, he liked endgames too, so he's not afraid to play like queen b6. Yeah, I mean, the pawn will likely fall at some point. b6, bishop c4. This looks good, though. Bishop b7. I expect him to play bishop b7. Wow. This would have surprised me. You've got to be willing to, like, feed that pawn back to him if you find a good circumstance. But I don't know what you should play. I mean, bishop f4 looks very tempting. Bishop g5 is interesting because that's, you know, possibly going to trade off that attacker at some point. Yeah, I totally thought he was going to play bishop b7. But you're right, like, what does he do after that? I mean, maybe he can try this. He can't do e6, though, yeah. Yeah, there's a Skachkov game. The guy plays very dubious openings. Knight a6, trying to go here, I guess. Yeah, I like bishop f4. This is a solid move. Because you can just like wedge it on e5. Obviously. But what about, like, you know, letting him take on c4? Is there a chance you're bringing his knight, you know, back in the game with, like, knight e8, knight d6? Now bishop f4, okay. Now knight c7. Yeah, that's very logical. So you gave him the pawn back here. You got to consider this. It doesn't look like much. And obviously you've got to consider this. I mean, I know you feel like your bishop is better than his knight, but I mean, you're still up this pawn. And the pawn has a lot of influence. I mean, you could be threatening like 95, knight c6, castles. It's going to take him a while to round that up. I mean, I'm curious what the computer would do. It's considering chopping. I would definitely consider chopping it. You know I love bishops too, but I don't want him to just get this pawn back with impunity. So now you play knight e5. So it's not with impunity. You have a tactic based on knight c6, knight e7. If he tries to take this, how does this work? Knight c6. Queen d7. Knight d5. Knight d5. Queen d5, right? But that's it. You're not going to get another chance to snap his guy. Yeah, but this doesn't feel right for black. Looks like he's in trouble. I mean, that's c6 square. Damn. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is just as good. That's a very powerful and invasive square there. So rook e8. Oh, wow. Damn, dude. You played knight f7. So he walked right into it. What other options does black have? Like queen e8 or something? This doesn't look good. Wow. Yeah, the guy's in big trouble here. He's in big trouble. Nah. I don't know what he's supposed to do in this position. What are you supposed to do? Can he play e6 or something? Yeah, but it just doesn't look good enough. Your control... Dude, look at the center here. I mean, this is the point, right? Wait, is the center important? I totally forgot. That's where you've got to look and think about it. Hey, is controlling the center important? Then white's probably better. I mean, there's other factors, of course, but jeez. This guy's like, where's the center again? Can you direct me to the center? Black has a great score. What line? Move 11. Are you talking about? Specifically. Damn, do you see this as beautiful shot? Knight takes check. Is it good enough, though? Is this some sort of tricky blunder? But you just play bishop c7, okay. Yeah, I'm like stupidly assuming he has d6, but then black has knight e6. But that's nothing. The point is Arsenal plays bishop c7, and now black doesn't take back because he doesn't want to lose a queen. So now queen d7. And now the game remains somewhat complicated. Black, however, is 2 pawns down. But move 11, specifically, what variation are you talking about? Yeah, that's a nice square. The center. Right. Now, do we have anything interesting here? d6. Any kind of tactics like that? Does this do anything? I mean, you have 2 extra pawns, so you can happily give one back under the right circumstances. Well, you're basically going to have to. So Arsenal just went for the open file. Knight takes d5. The one thing I don't want to have happen here is like this guy survives because we reach some kind of like rook ending and you don't have enough to beat him in a heavy piece ending or something like that. So I'm not in a hurry to trade queens. Unless you can win like another pawn. I mean, f4 is interesting. Then there's like this, and I don't know what this is, with like knight coming there. I mean, black looks super, super sus here. Like knight e4, knight takes f1, knight g5, just for fun. Yeah. We could play for mate. The type of line, yeah, the type of line with the double Islanis is tricky to play, and I've also like against the Caro-Kann Panov. Yeah, black has a good score. Black does well. I think in practice it's a very practical line. Yeah, I think the e5 push lines are more dangerous objectively. Move 11. So my fear here is that you might not have that much in this ending. This may be a situation where his king is more open than yours. And however you play it, or however you decide to play this position, I just think your king is... I think your king is safer than his king, and you should not trade queens. Of course, there are other factors. His knight's a really strong piece here. It's not going to be easy. But, you know, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think the engine isn't going to go for knight takes d5 here. Computer is interested in just holding the tension. I wonder about this, though. It's actually a blunder. Wow. Look at this variation. Bishop takes e5, d takes e5, knight f4. Black goes ballistic, like trying to mate white or something. That's crazy. So computer, check it out. It's like rook d1. Very stable, solid, creeping forward move. And taking your rook off the c-file, which seems kind of counterintuitive. But I'm afraid this might be a little too safe for black. Although I like f4. Now you also have to calculate endings like rook c7, for example. Bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes. rook takes a7. This is a nightmare. You know, it's probably a draw. It looks like one of my games that's going to end in a draw. So f4 is a good practical try. I was actually wondering if he should maybe play rook d7 to keep you off the 7th here. Even though that's completely passive. You have f5. But I'm not sure how good that even is. Like takes, 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 check, king g7. Yeah, I guess you're close here. I mean, there's a lot of calculation involved. It looks like you're winning after f4. Rook d7's too passive. So he plays this. Yeah, so this is his way of guarding the 7th. And now you traded. But I mean, what about the obvious question of rook c1? Oh, wow. And now he takes. He doesn't take. He doesn't take because if he takes, you take here. I think he's an awful good chance of holding this. e6. King f2, rook c7. I'm not sure you're winning this position. This looks like you let him get too close to a draw. I think it's too close to a draw. I thought you would go to the c file. But I mean, again, there's other problems. You know, here you have to deal with this. You know, then something like rook c7. You know, this is very technical too. Probably a draw as well. Damn. But I think your biggest mistake was trading queens objectively. Here. Right. He didn't get an e6. Yeah, so that's a super important moment for black. To do this and play this. And then he grabs a competing file before you can get there. I think it's probably a draw. This was key. But I don't like what he did now with that move. This seems desperate. He can't play rook c7. And bishop takes e5, man. I mean, maybe his last chance is something like this. I don't know. Is there a chance he can hold on here? Yeah. Apparently, this is still... It's still, like, conceivable that black could survive here. Even with rook c7. Even with those two pawns up. Okay, g5. He sacks a pawn. Yep. Now he's trying to play e6. So you have rook to e1. You have rook e1 now. Maybe there's practical chances to win. I don't know about g4. Are you still winning here? Maybe g4 is actually good. So maybe he chose the wrong plan altogether. I get it. He chooses the wrong plan with this whole rook d6 thing. He should have just activated his rook. Although it's not so simple anymore. I mean, you have stuff like d6 here, takes, takes, king h5. Yeah, this problem. Yeah, it's going to be hard. This is a mistake, actually, for him. Ironically, and then you just walk up. That was nice. Still not over. Here, I mean, you have like king f4. It looks like pretty strong. I think that's probably winning. King f4 looks devastating. Rook d4 is more awkward. Because king f4 would have protected your g5, allowing like h5 check. But I guess this is good too. He can't save it. Yeah, I mean, so once you get in g4, it looks pretty grim for black. Actually. What's the evaluation? g4 is best move and white's winning after that. And apparently it's too late for him here already. Wow, I thought he could play like rook c7. Surprisingly, it's not enough for black to hold. You've actually played like two best moves, h4 and g4. That's impressive. I mean, okay, defending the pawn is logical. So apparently his losing move is g5. He's still hanging on after this line I gave with rook c7. That's critical. Alright, anyway, like, good game, man. We gotta go on to Mule Skinner. Chess Zebra, welcome. No, rook endgames are always drawn. That's a famous expression, Chess Zebra. All rook endgames are draws. That's why Arsenal fan probably shouldn't trade queens, you know, objectively. I think you're like totally winning with the queens on the board, but it would have taken like, you know, it would have been a very tense position still. And it wasn't that easy to like mate him or play for a direct attack because he has a good blockade of d5. No, it's easy for the computer to be like, okay, rook d1. You know, the computer, what I appreciate about learning from Stockfish is its ability to just play these like really like tiny improving moves. It has no sense of like, I have to win this now. It's very, in a sense, like, not literally, but the engine is extremely patient. Like, it just finds these little moves to hold the position and then slightly improve. Alright, Mule Skinner sent me the game in my... Where is it? I'll have to search. He's not here now, it looks like. Mule Skinner of Spain. Danish chess player living in Spain. He's skinning mules as we speak. Where is my messages? How does mule meat taste? Alright, it was a 90-30 over the board game. I'm white. Note how I mixed up the move order in the opening. Mixed up? Is that a good mixed up or is a bad mixed up? There's our answer. It was not intentional, unfortunately seems to be of no importance. Maybe I'll repeat the move order. Even Karsten Mule Skinner says that all rooking games are draw. Mulehide. Here's the game. Alright. So I have to go to a special study. Mule Skinner is white with the Grand Prix attack. So he's specifically referring to this move order with bishop b5. I guess I've probably had people play this. Bogachog, welcome. Boba Fett. Bogachog, a less known bounty hunter. Star Wars bar scene was referenced recently in the news somewhere. Speaking of Boba Fett, but something about Capitol Hill. Bishop b5. Yeah, I mean, you have to play knight d4. There's just like no other move here. I don't like allowing these doubled pawns in the Grand Prix. Mule Skinner, any relation to... Yeah. Well, Skinner just died. Like the psychologist. Didn't he? No, it wasn't Skinner. Another psychologist died. It wasn't him. Alright. I don't even know if B.F. Skinner is still alive. It's not, yeah, it was B.F. Skinner. I don't even think he's dead for 20 years or alive or anything. There was some famous psychologist who just passed away. Alright. All I know is like Principal Skinner. That's the only Skinner that's important. Bishop takes c6. We're serious people here. Yeah, the dude lets this happen. No. Knight d4. Correct. Knight f3. And now I have like a million games from this position. Mostly with knight takes b5. That's the game. Yul Skinner had a lot of practice against me here. Knight b5, knight b5. Bishop g7, castles. And now... So I've been playing primarily like two setups with black. a6 and b5, followed by bishop b7. Or, yeah, The Simpsons is important, South Park. Slowly the world is really, like, kind of basically a real sort of version of South Park. Castles, a6. I like a6, but you don't just play a6 for no reason. Like this guy. I've also experimented with like d6. But this is a very interesting variation that I played the other day. White has to play either take or e5. And I faced both these variations. I don't know. I mean, it seems like maybe e5 is better. Because after take, it looks like Kudrin's offbeat line with a6, knight c3, knight f6, d4, c takes d is pretty good. There have been very few games here, but I was looking at this the other day. I mean, in any case, like, white definitely doesn't have an advantage. So I think that white ought to play the other line. After d5, e5. Take his chances there. Here, however, this looks pretty good. I've never actually played this. The idea of, like, opening the long diagonal for the Bishop of Death. I was always reluctant to do that, but that's statistically the best move, according to the computer. We'll try it next time. What would Emanuel Berg do? You know, not a lot of top names in the list here. There's one, Petrosian Tigerin II. Convicted chess.com cheater. Whatever happened with that scandal? Alright. Anyway, a6 here. I think you ought to play b5 now. This is very experimental and very hyper-modern. I have a number of games with Yul Skinner and others. But the idea is to get maximum, like, long-distance bishops. Carlsen played it? Carlsen played what? Not this. No, a different Carlsen. That's Pontus Carlsen. He's a grandmaster from Sweden. a6, knight c3, and now e6. This seems funny to me. Yeah, Pontus Carlsen. He's like one of the strongest black grandmasters in the world. I never met him. E6. Maybe the strongest one, I don't know. Mr. Coffee, are you kidding? You're the biggest loser I've ever seen in my life. Oh, that's the... Oh my god. That's the Tigran Petrosian. Yeah, well, you know, grandmasters would never cheat in online chess tournaments. I can tell you very definitively from my personal experience. Every grandmaster in the world has so much respect for the game of chess, they would never dream of cheating. I've never seen any instances of titled grandmasters cheating. Not on my watch. Just kidding, of course. Alright. But seriously, this is slow for black. Now queen e1, 97. So a6 like contributed very little to black's position. So I'm thinking like maybe Muleskinner should unleash the f-pawn faster. No, I don't know. I don't comment. I shouldn't comment on stuff from the Evil Chess site, but if they're willing to go public with accusations against a strong grandmaster, most likely they have some kind of, I mean, these sites are not in a hurry to make accusations against the established grandmaster. In general, you know, that's not good for them to do that. I kind of think they have to have pretty good intelligence. But there, you know, there's like one grandmaster against another grandmaster. You know, somebody's making an accusation. So sometimes it's like playing political favorites, though. All right. Anyway, e6, queen e1. You could go for d4, but I don't really like it. Maybe here because black's setup is so slow. This is kind of interesting. Pawn takes d4, knight takes d4. I mean, the dark squares are basically all... My dark square clicking skills are a little bit weak, but... I guess... White's clearly better. Peter doesn't buy it. It thinks black's okay here. I mean, I don't know. I stand corrected. Not that great. This is more natural. I think he played queen e1, knight e7, d3, castles. I also thought maybe f5 right away. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when people get caught up in their egos, they'll do almost anything. I think we're seeing that a lot in politics, as well as the world of chess. There are people that'll do, like, you never thought he would do something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure f5's enough, though. So Muleskinner plays this in controlled fashion. It looks like king h1 is... I'm like, nah. King h1, you're too slow now. I mean, there's really no need to do that. This is just way too exaggerated. That looks like something I'd play on a bad day. You gotta go here with the attack. Saw a similar game the other day. It's one of my students. Actually, a really nice game. But that was different. That was like a bishop on c4 line. I mean, there's no bishop on c4 here. You know what I mean? Black's not getting counterplay with like d5 attacking some bishop on c4. f5 looks legitimately dangerous. I think this is a reasonable pawn sack. I mean, this doesn't hit a bishop, you know, and then we're coming with like queen h4 in the standard attack. I suspect king h1 is slow. We don't need to do that. Now d5. Let's see what the computer says. a4. I want to play f5. Slackfish is not having any of this. It's just like whatever. You're down a pawn. Pawn takes pawn. I mean, it's true. There's no like bishop on c4, bishop b3 on this diagonal, like in the classical sort of Grand Prix attack. I guess I have to change my perception of this position a little bit, because Mule Skinner is playing with no white square bishop. Well, I mean, no. I mean, this is a pawn sack, and it's based usually on that bishop on the diagonal. I mean, I think that Mule Skinner also can consider playing e5, but black can try to hit the center with d6. You can't sit around, and I don't like knight e2. You know, I mean, this is definitely not right now. Whatever you do here, I mean, this is not the right idea. I'm sure this is wrong. We've got to try to keep the tension. I mean, maybe even e5. The danger would be like the long diagonal there. But I still think that the rest of White's pieces are pretty good. Another possibility is simply queen h4. Maybe objectively this is a good try. Just queen h4. I mean, now we maybe set up f5 with the threat of like bishop g5 or bishop h6. I think that's probably what I would go for if I were white, rather than king h1. This seems slow. You know, still we should probably go with queen h4. Now there's the possibility of knight c6 coming in here, coming in here. I mean, anyway, that was possible. This isn't right. There's no way knight e2 is right. And I'm not sure about b5. Maybe b6 is a little bit safer, honestly. Not to weaken the c5 square and just get our bishop to the diagonal. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. b5 might be, you know, might get hit on c5 at some point. You got to be careful about that c5 pawn. I think he wants to play like c5. He wants everything. I hate this knight on g3. And now black plays f5. So your knight on g3 is like game over for him. But in exchange, you've got some chances here. Thanks, Arsenal fan. Good game. So white closes the center. Black closes the center. And now black has a square d5. Also the long diagonal. So I think that black feels like black's better. Again, if the pawn were back on b6, there'd be less breaks for white. So there's a possibility of something like b4. White can leverage that structure. That wouldn't be really possible with the pawn back on b6. And that's exactly what Mule Skinner does. He breaks that structure down. See, this is like an almost like imperceptible mistake. But just to go b6 instead, you know, you still achieve the bishop getting to the long diagonal, but you don't weaken the c5 square. I think this is much better. This is cautious but solid for black. And now he had a problem with that. I mean, f5 actually seems okay. And he could have probably played something else here. I mean, even a5 maybe, you know. However, white can lock the whole position with like d4. He didn't want to allow that, but he allows that instead. c4. This pawn looks very weak. Knight back to e2. Knight c6. I mean, it's kind of an unclear position, but we're still threatening queen f2. Rook b1. The pawn is just on the verge of being overextended. So now black plays queen d5. Great move. Making way for rook d8. Getting on the long diagonal. Queen f2, rook d8. And now d takes c4. Damn. Now, another guy can attack the d4 pawn. Queen takes c4. Another 2 pieces, actually. Bishop b2 as well. You know, so my interpretation here is that black gets the bishop on the long diagonal. He might even have compensation for the lost pawn. So that's the thing that black needs to do now. You know, be down a pawn under the right circumstances. White is backward here. The long diagonal is very strong. I don't think that black is lost if he loses a pawn. He ends up not losing a pawn anyway. d3 takes, rook takes. So material is equal. I was expecting like a3 now. Finally. And obviously, like, it's possible to play bishop f8. Man. Black has queen takes f3. So this is going to be a tough day at the office for white. Like, losing a pawn here. Oh, that was better. Damn. So that's why it's better to do bishop takes. Sorry, my one-move calculation isn't that deep. Here, here. Black might not be winning. But instead he has bishop takes f3. Oh, the rook's hanging. Jeez. Yeah, so objectively, what happened? Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen g2. Sorry, I'm just like losing my concentration. So he could have forced this ending with queen f3, pawn f3, bishop takes, queen g2 takes, king takes, bishop f8. What is this, a draw? Rook here, rook check, king here, rook here. No, I mean b4 is hanging. Not clear. You could take this, and I don't know what's going on. Black's slightly better up a pawn. I mean, obviously this is like risk-free continuation. Yeah, but I mean, the whole game, the danger was on that diagonal. I don't know if Mule Skinner was ever really better, objectively. I'd like to see the position after b4. Yeah, black's still better according to the engine. It's the best move. The computer has a crazy idea. Bishop b7, b takes c, trading the bishop off right away. That's pretty extreme. Okay, anyway, so we got to this endgame and black basically blundered, losing the exchange with this combination. He wins the bishop so he can lose a rook. And now bishop f8. But it looks like draw, because white's king is unsafe. Not enough to win. Yeah, I mean, this is a draw. You got to take a draw here. There's no sense like losing all your pawns with check. You're only giving black a chance to win if you do that. So they agree to draw anyway. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tough call. E6 looks wrong. So he played queen e1, but it looks like this is actually better. These positions are always dependent on time, though. I mean, normally this could be a bad move. Like, for example, d6, knight e4. Black's just in trouble. So he has to play d5. d4. Gawain Jones, not so clear. An old Gawain Jones game where he lost. Alright, interesting game. I've got to move on. Thanks, Mule Skinner. Going back to our study. Going back now. Sludgy analysis stream. Alright. I might not be able to get to these last submissions, guys. I have a limit. So, what do we have left? There's more games in the list than you see here. Move 11 and Sumaher. Sumaher, I guess, was first. The Sumaharian. Game 4. Guys, please make a donation, and I'll take your game first. Actually, where's Nils? Nils usually makes donations to get his game submitted first, but he doesn't have a game for this week. Alright, Mr. Sumaher, thanks for being a subscriber to the stream. So what do we got here? Sumaher is black. Thanks for the follow from Gabriel Moroni. Tanu Jim as well. Guys, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube, for replays. Sumaher is black, d4. You know, I was thinking, Sumaher, your biggest weakness is probably black against d4. It seems like your Caro-Kann is pretty good. With white, you're pretty good. But with black against d4, you're like less well prepared. Alright, d4, d5, and then the good old London system. My favorite opening. Thanks for submitting a London system. At least you didn't play the London system. I troll this opening all the time. A favorite of... Yeah, well, I mean, I played like 100 games with a lot of the people on the stream, or plus. Morales is almost up to 400. Chess Ibra, so you get to know people after like 100 games. With Sumaher, we probably have like 100 games. Knight f6, and people tend to play the same stuff, I'm finding. Mr. Coffee. On behalf of the next game, so it can go first after this one. Mr. Coffee, very generous. Despite the inflation, Mr. Coffee's donating 500 bits. He's not only a moderator, he's a supporter of the stream as well. Very generous, man. Everybody, don't forget, again, if I'm still alive, tomorrow morning we'll be back with some Blitz challenges. Sorry I had to cancel Wednesday. I had bad sleep and had an appointment in the morning, so I couldn't really bring myself to pull off a Wednesday stream. Friday morning, 11 a.m. CET. We should be here tomorrow. Alright, the Deadly London system. I like c5 if I'm playing this position. Sumaher's a d4 player, you know, so if you're an e4 player, it's a little bit of a problem. You know, to play queen pawn positions with colors reversed. This is like acerbate or something. But when you're a d4 player, it's no problem. Just pretend you're white, you know. It's okay. I like that better than bishop f5. But Sumaher is playing a symmetrical London system now, which is typical for Slav. Mr. Coffee, did you temporarily ban yourself? Is this a troll? Yeah, I do hate the London. Knight f3, now e6. You know, by the way, like the main line here for white is c4. And Magnus has played a bunch of games. You see, the problem with people that... The other thing is that people who study this stuff, like the London system, they become attached to certain ideas. That's why they like it in the first place. They think it's like easy, you know, no brain sort of way of playing chess openings. But you still have to think critically. I mean, in fact, like most London system players are so blind that they just like robotically play like c3 or something. You have to play c4 in this type of structure to try to get any kind of advantage whatsoever. And now it's essentially, more of a Queen's Gambit type of thing with your bishop out on f4. There's some crazy lines like black plays bishop takes b1. But usually that happens on the next move. So we'd have like e6, knight c3. No. For example, e6, queen b3. How does it go? I guess I'm thinking of knight f3. Bishop takes b1. Yeah, Carlsen, so, Carlsen, so. So, Carlsen and Nakamura, all guilty of popularizing the London system. But the idea here is that black can get in like bishop b4 check. But for example, queen takes, bishop b4 check, king d1. And the idea is that white's king could actually bishop d3, king e2, rook d1, and like crawl back on the white squares back to the king side. Because you can't castle now, doesn't mean you can't like artificially castle later. And black has given up his white square bishop. So the white squares are pretty safe for white in the long run here. Anyway, just wanted to illustrate that. White plays instead knight f3, and this is pretty lame. Very conservative, sort of boring move for white. As you can see, 77% of games from this position, or let's see, 71% of games from this position were draws. And you wonder why I love the London system so much. Now Sumaher also, with bishop d6, it's now symmetrical. Yeah, I guess he's trolling me with this game. Bishop takes f5. And now thanks for not playing bishop takes f4. With the symmetry. The symmetry can't last forever after bishop takes f4. I assume. What happens if bishop takes f4? Bishop takes e6. Bishop takes f4, bishop takes e6. Bishop takes e3. Once I had a couple people, actually maybe twice I've had a couple people like try to do like symmetrical games against me and troll me like that. Bishop takes f7, check, king f7, and white is up a pawn. Yeah, that's not healthy. You can't maintain symmetry forever. So now e takes f5. Anderson Hubner, 1988. Pretty solid, man. But not an exciting position to play. So this is a novelty, bishop g3, though that looks like a relatively normal move. I guess my concern for white would be like black's going to play knight e4 and take with the knight. And then black remains with the powerful unopposed dark square bishop. So when you think about it, white could have played bishop takes d6. Instead, he played bishop g3, and then after black plunks his knight into e4, then white exchanges on d6. And then you've got to ask yourself, does that make sense? Does it make sense to play bishop g3 and then turn around and play bishop takes d6 on the next move? Somehow it doesn't seem logical to me. It's still a close position and probably not that bad. The first thing is like he spent time on, he could allow the knight to take it, Let's just say knight d2, knight takes g3, h takes g. I mean, this is very common. Now, this bishop is strong. But in this closed structure, where white has a lot of pawns on dark squares, it's not that easy for white to really, it's not really easy to do anything. White's extremely solid here. But I think it's inconsistent. He should just trade the bishop straight away. Or just leave it on f4. You could just castle or something. I like this. This is an awesome position. I'll have a dream about this tonight. Exciting fantasies about this position. Extremely exciting position. Anyway, thanks for submitting this, Sumaher. Maybe it's going to get more interesting. So bishop g3, knight e4 takes, and now does get interesting. I would think like normally we would play queen takes. It develops the piece. You're threatening queen b4 check. You're clearing the back rank. I don't really understand any particular logic behind knight takes. But pawn takes, like, okay. There are many instances of this type of position that are okay for black. But I'm not sure I would go out of my way to go for this structure. I mean, it's better than it looks, I could say. But I still feel like d5 is a liability I'd rather not have. So, you know, if we turn on the engine, I guarantee it says queen takes d6. Almost guaranteed. It's there. Wait, it's close. I said I guaranteed. I can't believe it's going to play knight takes d6. Give it some time. Come on, man. Wake up. It takes it a while to get on my wavelength. See? It said queen takes d6. It took like 30 seconds, but it finally was like queen takes d6. It takes it a while to understand chess as well as me. You got to give the engine a little bit of time. Man, I'm a little surprised by knight takes d6 though. I don't really get it, you know. Not inspiring for me. Serge says, I had a game against the CM and over the board. Can we take a look? I was going for Wan plays risky, but it wasn't possible. Maybe I could find a combination. Serge, you can always submit a game. It might have to wait till next week, though. You send me the game on here by private message. On lichesS. Send me the message. Send the game to me in a link. Thanks, Mr. Coffee, for triggering Moobot. You're triggering everyone. You know, so this is playable, but it looks like unnecessarily risky. But it's not boring anymore. I don't understand why white doesn't castle here. There must be a reason. He's going to castle queenside or something. That fixes black's structure, so I don't know. I know maybe white should think about c4. That's kind of counterintuitive, though. Trading off the weak pawn on d5. I mean, it's not like black has some big attack, though. I think castles is okay. For example, castles, knight c6, c3, with the threat of queen b3. I guess you can defend that pawn like Frank Marshall style or something. Maybe knight e7. It's not that easy to exploit these doubled pawns. Black can hold it. This type of position. It's like very hard to open the position without trading off one of those double Isolani's, and then, well, I mean, maybe like that's what would happen. Something like take, 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 and now black just has one isolated pawn. But it's still not that easy. You know, he could lose because of this Isolani in the long run. I mean, black doesn't have one, he has two pawn weaknesses. So he has to be very careful. Take, take here, he fixes the structure now. It's much clearer. A5 is a really weird move. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing on the queen side. I would think like your chances lie on the king side, but I guess he's anticipating one of these guys, these London people, is going to castle queen side. So A5 is Sumahara's way of trying to discourage white from castling queen side. But honestly, I mean, D5 is a good move. You know, any sort of developing move, like, yeah, B5 minority attack. I would think this. Various squares for the queen. You have to look for F4, but I doubt it's like working tactically. And maybe it does. Could you possibly play F4? I doubt it. It just doesn't quite work. I mean, it almost works. I don't think we're quite fast enough with the F4. You could try to do an aggressive move like Queen G5, inducing G3. There's a lot of options here for black. A5 seems semi-random. Yeah, minority attack with B5. But again, I think this is the white, white's queenside is pretty strong. I don't know how realistic, that's really not the most realistic minority attack. Creates a huge weakness here too. I mean, honestly, this might be kind of a problem. White has knight c4 and knight b6. So white decided to castle. Now you actually have b5. I don't know if it's a good move or not. Maybe not. Like queen takes, rook b8. This knight will come to c4. And we have problems. This type of position where d6 like falls. That's not really what I want to have happen. So it feels like you're playing on white's stronger side in a sense when you play a5. I don't like a5. It weakens the b5 square too. I feel like Sumaher should be focusing on the king side where he has the spatial wedge with e4. But I would probably opt for a flexible move here. Wait and see what white's going to do. Because you don't know if he's going to castle kingside or queenside yet. This a5 is a little bit committal. And that's... I don't know, man, but a4 looks like a very logical move. I would play a4 without hesitation for white. White also has f3 coming, which is quite useful with this diagonal here. But queen d1 doesn't make much sense. And now your minority attack is coming with tempo. And now b3 just looks like a mistake. Yeah, d5 and f4. I mean, that's the structural... That's the place you're playing with your space advantage on the king side. Okay. If you do d5, let's say b5, white makes a random move, d5. He'll probably play g3, but you can play g5 and f4 later. You should play on the side where you have more space. Generally speaking, black has more space on the king side because of the pawn on e4. But Sumaher is primarily playing on the queen side here. I don't get b3 though. That seems like a bad move. He should have played a4 in the first place. Now black has a4 and black has some play. And then b4 is like, whoa. What are you going to do about this pawn? That doesn't seem right. And he doesn't have access to this square to get in here. This is a blitz game, guys, by the way. It's a very fast-paced game. And now, like, white can still play c4. How can he not play c4 here? It's incomprehensible. In fact, I don't know. Maybe actually Sumaher should play d5. Shutting him down. Objectively. Play d5. Move the knight back around to like d6. And you still have a space advantage board wide. I don't think you should let him play c4. He has to play this and break out. And white has a protected passer at b4. I mean, he's probably better here based on the structure. Even though black has a strong knight, white might be slightly better. Yeah, that's exactly the valuation the computer is coming with. Slightly better. Super common to reflexively defend instead of always seeing counterattacks. Yeah, but you have to make it your instinct to counterattack rather than defend when the option... Yeah, this is horrible. When the option presents itself. Now white is totally on the defensive. And I think we're going to see it go downhill from here. He locks down c4. I mean, this is a disaster. And now black will shift completely to a kingside oriented attack. Beautiful move, rook a6. Based on space. At least he traded off the knight. In this one point, white could keep pressure on b5, maybe. Yeah, It's hard to prevent f4. I mean, even g3, g5. You can't defend passively. This does look hard to hold now, but I think white should sit tight. Problem is he can't bring his king over because of pawn takes pawn. That makes it a little tricky. If you can't bring your king over to the center, I think this endgame becomes difficult. Like, even if he could, I mean, still you'd have to deal with, like, f3. There you go. So, this move I'm not sure about. I mean, rook takes f3. Honestly, where you have, like, really, like, 3 weaknesses. I'm not sure about this. I mean, it'd be nice if we could get our king to e4. But maybe Sumaher will just have, like, f5. Oh no, we can't drop that pawn. And now we just walk in. It's over. He didn't do it. I mean, it's strong to play like king f5, king e4. This is also winning. And it's just like f4 is definitely winning. But there's no reason to rush, I guess. Right. Well, I mean, white doesn't have to play king back. He should try a rook move instead. I just don't know what rook move. Like, for example, rook d2. Like, this is a blunder because we have rook takes d4. So, let's say rook d2. I mean, black can reposition rook here, then penetrate on the 7th. I think this is a winning position. Prettier chess? What? Prettier lichesS Google Chrome extension. Oh, that's nice. I try to be pretty. Panda's pretty, I'm not. What's this? Oh, Sarish. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how many games we can get to. I'm not guaranteeing the last submissions are going to get analyzed today. If your game doesn't get analyzed today, we will include it in next Thursday's stream. So, I guess white's lost here. Let's say rook d2. How do we make progress? I mean, obviously you can just take the pawn. And then if, like, you know, what does he do? Rook d3 or something? We're just threatening here and then invading. I think it's hopeless for white. It's just hopeless. Let's see the eval. +4. Yeah. Yeah, it's hopeless. Take here, here, here. But I mean, this is obviously really crushing. Now we also had the ability of g3. And that's what he did immediately. But you know, you can't let him play g2. I mean, white really has to take here. For better or for worse. Like, g2 is game over because it's like rook takes and mate on h1. Sumair should just play king f5 and then here. The Sumaharian. I mean, I guess theoretically there is king h2, rook takes h4 check, king g3, but I don't think white's going to survive there. Looks like this pawn is queening, making a new rook. It was a funny. It's a blitz game, so wasn't the best technique. Enough to get the job done. And that's it. Alright, thanks for the game, Sumaher. Still was interesting. Next is move 11, and then cheesecake. Cheese mate. I know I'm hungry when I'm starting to talk about food. Alright. Move 11, very serious dude. One of our greatest supporters on the stream. Thanks, Mr. Coffee, again for the 500-bit donation. It's been a slow month here. I'll check out that thing you're talking about, Serge, later. We have a friend of mine who plays poker with us. His name is Sergey, and we call him Serge. Serge. So we've got, yeah, move 11. Where's move 11? The move 11, submit a game for stream. Alright, here it is. No description. Rosic. Rosic versus move 11. Rorschach. Alright, we'll see if Rorschach can make some interesting shapes with the pieces. E4, C5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, g6, d4, cd4, knight d4, bishop g7, accelerated dragon. Oh no. What are you talking about, Asterbate? What link are you putting in there? Sea Life chess figurines? Oh man, this is disappointing. I hate this variation. No, what is this? This isn't a variation. What am I talking about? He didn't even play knight f6 yet. I'm thinking of bishop c4, knight f... I'm sorry, what am I thinking of? Bishop e3, knight f6, knight takes c6. You know, this line. This is critical. You know, takes here and then either knight d5. Taking this pawn sack, or the other pawn sack. You know, objectively, maybe it's best to play knight g8. Oh, 75k! You can get a fungible token for 75k. Fungible chess token. Your fungible chess Elon Musk token. Anyway, maybe this knight g8 is a better way to play in that line, objectively. Black's score. Let's check statistics. 338 games, 339 games, and black is just about equal. Whereas if we play the other line with knight d5, knight d5, cd5, queen d5, what's our statistics? Well, let's just see knight d5. It's significantly better for white. That's kind of disturbing. Why would a sea life set be made of ivory? No, it's way. It might be. Maybe it's like not real ivory. You know how they use like scrimshaw, like whale bones and shark teeth as maybe it's shark teeth ivory cheesemate. That's like kind of like pseudo ivory. Maybe it's made of shark's teeth. Polar bear molars. I don't know, dude. That's not really sea life either. Walrus tusks. Walrus tusks would be cool. Not for the walrus though. So anyway, yeah, statistically looks like knight g8 is way better. I really ought to look at this. So move 11 doesn't have to worry about that. His opponent plays something else. The old knight takes c6. I mean, this is a bad move. It's a bad move, and I don't know why any strong player would play that. You see there's a few examples. Looks like Vladimir Onishchuk has 2 games playing this. Back in like 04. But, you know, Fedoseev when he was like a little kid. I don't get it, you know, why anyone would play this seriously. Just to take black out of book. I see it all the time, though, online. Yeah, we killed 7 species to create your chess set. Bishop e3. Yeah, I mean, so the normal approach is bishop d3. Or maybe bishop c4 to attack f7. This is critical. Like, I tried to play queen c7. I've actually looked at this. This is a real thing, right? Bishop c4, queen c7, queen f3. Yeah, there's one game here, so check it out. A very old Anarchiev game from 2001. If you play knight f6, bishop f4, d6, there's like e5. Yeah, yeah, climate change, environmentalist, hating, chess set. Hunter chess set. Made with taxidermied heads of 12 endangered animals or something. e5. I don't know what's going on here. So takes, queen b7. I assume this is check. It's check. Alright. Anyway, never mind. That's not a variation. So that's the point. Well, I can't play e5. Peter Ustinov. Castles. And this is the way you do it. You just get out of there, and he never gets his e5 in, and black has a good position. That's exactly what we're trying to do. And then eventually you can play knight d7, and haha, you can never play e5. This is the way you're supposed to play it. But I thought I found a problem with queen c7. Weird. Let's see the engine. Do you have a problem? There's no problem here. No, we're good. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of a different position. White can do it without knight c3? Can he just like straight up in the normal line? Like, say you try to do the straight up version. Here, takes. If you do like g6 right away, this is classic, right? There is a trap here, you know, like if bishop c4 right away. This was the Eric Schiller game with like queen a5 check. I thought. No. There was some game where like queen b4 wins a piece, but this isn't it. I keep getting it confused. It's bishop g7. So you have to do this move order, then d4, then takes, then knight takes, and then bishop g7. Okay, if bishop c4 here, check, and if white plays knight c3, they like lose a piece to queen c5. Abrahamian versus Izzy Goliath, who's a master, and Abrahamian both drop pieces like this. It's pretty funny. But there's nothing you can do in this move order, except for play the accelerated hyper with g6. No, there doesn't seem to be a problem. I get a lot of people playing bishop d3 against me. It sucks, but it's actually hard to beat white in these positions. Like rook b8 early is probably not a bad idea. As soon as possible. And hope they like play rook b1 and drop drop a piece to bishop takes c3. Protect their b pawn. No. Computer doesn't like this move, interestingly. Anyway, wow, do you see this? Some people actually play D takes C. Is that insipid or what? Vlad Gianu when he was 2200, okay. He's like in the European Romanian team. Yeah, obviously not an attempt to win. B takes C here. Yeah, this is a mistake. I mean, it looks like B2 is weak after bishop E3. What are you going to do about that? So maybe you have rook B8 right away? What's he going to do on rook B8? We hope for rook B1, rook B2. Rook B2, bishop takes check. King E2. No, whatever. What about rook B8? Are we concerned about bishop D4? Are we concerned about bishop takes A7? I mean, is this a thing? Like takes here? Bishop D4? Because I'm not really trusting white's position. Not exactly sure how you're supposed to handle it, though. It looks like pretty much anything is okay. But I think rook B8 is definitely the best move. So maybe move 11 needs to get more familiar with rook B8. Instead, he played queen C7. Which is like focusing on that E5 square thing again. It's not a bad move. But I think you can take advantage of him better with rook B8. And now that. So what do we do? I don't like E5, really. If you play knight F6, he wants to play his namesake move. He wants to wait till move 11 to play rook B8. Knight D5, knight D5, CD5. Wow, there's an actual game here. All the good games were played in like Hungary. Not exciting, but black's at least equal. So there's that. Is that what you did? Knight F6? Yeah. He didn't play E5. There's no tricky tactics or anything. I think this is the right move. But white just doesn't play the critical continuation. And now what do you do? Castle, castle, and then just stop him. Yeah, objectively, maybe you shouldn't castle. Maybe you should play D6 right away. I wouldn't give him another chance to play E5, honestly. I don't see the point, really, in delaying that. Giving him another shot to play E5. But it's still hard to beat him here. So now, like, typical amateur setup for white. So Matt said the A5 is overrated. I think he was talking about this. Never play A5 on move 11. This is the most important move for move 11. When we get to move 11, this is always a critical moment in his games. You didn't want to play A5. There's no love for that move. That's a standard thing I'll do in these types of positions. So I can trade off white's bad bishop with bishop A6. Is my main idea. No, it just kind of like generally gains space, takes the bishop, the pawn out of take. Sometimes I like to leave that A7 pawn hanging because it can get like trapping a bishop or something. But rook B8 is okay. Now he should play like B3, right? But he didn't want to do that. But objectively, the engine likes bishop E7. Yeah, not now though. Like here. Yeah, I mean you can play C5. I guess you just have to be really careful when you push your pawns not to give white any good concrete piece, you know, outposts that work. I think he can play b3, right? I mean, there's no tactics here for you. However, you could try queen a5, threatening c5, I guess. Maybe that's a problem for white. Then he has to play something awkward like this. Yeah, maybe you get some funky tactics like rook b4, threatening to take. Then bishop goes back. It's still very murky, actually. So let's see what he did. White played rook b1, which is like super awkward. But I guess he can free himself with b3 slowly. And now you decided to trade the dark square bishops. Okay. I had a game like this against the annoying guy I've talked about, who constantly like moves around and distracts me during the game. But it was rapid chess, and it didn't faze me as much. I managed to beat him. But I was concerned about something along these lines, like queen d4 check and like b4. He might be able to play b4 at some point. You know, try to lock down a little bit of space. I guess even there you have counterplay. For some reason, that's another reason why I like a5. I don't like the guy getting in like b4, getting space. And you can obviously play e5 carefully. This was another thing. Coming here with threats of like knight there, you've got to watch out for. For example, queen c4. Again, maybe not a big deal here. No, I think you're better. You just have a better position. Probably just e5 is good. Make sure d6 stays protected. So he played this. The master of playing for a draw. White's trying to just hoover the pieces off. f6 instead of e5. Yeah, that's like my least favorite way of responding in that type of position. There's a little bit of weakness here, but it is possible in certain situations. It's probably not that bad. It's not easy for white to use this square to his advantage, but it's kind of committal. I mean, I'd rather not like move any pawns unless I have a very concrete plan. So this seems safer. It keeps our flexible structure. You know, the dragon. This is the dragon. This is why it's called the dragon. In case anybody didn't know. Yeah, we know Feingold's rules for everything. f6 is often a good move, but not my favorite here. The dragon structure is flexible, so when we move the pawns forward, we lose a lot of flexibility. I'd rather not move any pawns. This is a concrete plan, though. I mean, if I can play e5 with tempo, and I just have a very strong plan, like stick my knight on c5, lock it in with a5, dark square play, rook b4, d6 is protected, then I'm happy, you know? I mean, black's probably slightly better. Also, we put our pawns on dark squares. White's bishop, you know, is kind of bad. But again, calculation is necessary. I mean, here. If he plays like bishop c4, has very good control of d5, it might be almost impossible to beat white here, you know. Then we go for f5. So there's that possibility as well. If we're able to destroy his center, eventually our central majority will be beneficial. Again, you have to watch out for b4, though. So it's tricky. So you just let him trade bishop for bishop. Move 11 is anti a5. He hates a5. I like a5 here. I think I would have played a5. Actually, because it gives you rook b4. Of course, white can play like a3, you know, and the position doesn't change much. I kind of felt like I like this square. It's more of an outpost. It can't be attacked. Like on e5 you can be attacked by f4. So it doesn't feel like a real outpost. You know, I'm not sure what your plan is for this knight on e5, or if you have a plan. And like, why would you take with that rook? Because you want to play f5? It seems much more natural to take this way. I like the b file. I mean, eventually he's going to play b3. Even there, we might have rook b4. So that seems like a weird recapture. I mean, black's still very solid. And now he did queen b6. And like, white... I had a game with Nefedov where he did this. But white doesn't really want to do that. I don't think. This is a very favorable lizard. The lizard structure. It's kind of hard to get at its base, you know, it's like under the rug. The rug structure. How do you attack the base of that? You know, what's he going to do? Like attack f7? I mean, it's pretty hard to get at the base. The flying carpet. So here he goes. He's going to try to crack your rug. He's going to try to saw it in half with e5, basically. But this rug looks pretty fluid. Now knight c4, the dancing knight. If e5, obviously, trying to break the carpet in half, you have d5. Try to keep things fluid. Here you could take. You have to calculate, but you know, your structure's also broken apart. I don't know what I would do. No ban, please. Yeah, you're asking for it. f4, knight c4, and then e5. So I don't know what the time situation is here. Wow, 3:59 against 3:55. I thought this was a live game. I didn't realize this was an OT, like this was an online game. For some reason, I had some weird feeling like you were submitting a game from over the board. For some reason, I don't know why. But it's not. I mean, this is an online game. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is a little random. I would actually consider b5 here. I think b5 is interesting. It's starting to look like a Peart structure. It's an airplane. We talked about Rorschach, right? We were speaking about Rorschach before the game started. Now we're making shapes with the pawns. But it's looking like an airplane. This is totally an airplane. Who doesn't see that? That is a freaking airplane. If I've ever seen one. These are like the wheels down here. You see that? Or is it just my imagination? I like b5. That's the tail. It's not an airplane until you play b5. Move 11 made it into something else. So, okay. I don't know what white should play. Take, g3. You could take with the pawn too. I don't like this pawn on d6. That's a star move though. He just did like the quarterback sneak with king f6 for the NFL fans out there, since it is November. He's like, oh, quarterback sneak 4 yards for a first down with king f6. You didn't see that coming. Rook f2 check, king e6. And now I like this is compact in the center. I mean, still objectively it's probably a draw. There's the airplane. Now the king is part of the airplane. The pilot had to like take over. No, I'm not doing drugs. I'm just happy. All right, A4. Now what do we do? I'm about to like send a message to this guy like, what is wrong with you? You should be like horsewhipped for playing B takes A in this position. Seriously, I think this is like a no-brainer. Knight takes A4. He's like, oh, I have a passed pawn. But I mean, man, these pawns look kind of ill, honestly. I don't think that pawn's going anywhere. Yeah, it's like a fake news outside pawn story. He's like, yes, I have an outside passed pawn. But it's isolated and like looks really weak, and your knight is like perfectly placed to go to C4. The knight on A4 isn't that great, but I think that white's holding on here after knight A4. After this move, he might be seriously worse. Like let's see what the engine says. Yeah, it's no brainer. Knight takes A4, 0.4, 0.2 for white. Basically, this is a losing move, literally. Like, raise your hand if you would think this is a losing move. This is a losing move. Failure to respect pawn islands. 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 2. In an endgame, in a knight endgame. Not just any endgame. A knight endgame. That's the worst situation to like destroy your pawn islands, by the way. In an endgame with knights on the board. He just totally wrecked his whole position. This is kind of awkward, though. Now what are you going to do? Rook b4? Well, that's lucky. Does he have a draw here with knight a2? Some sort of perpetual? Wait a second. Knight a2. You just play rook b2. Yeah, but this is messed up, man. He has knight a2. Oh, I'm crazy. You just take. But wait. You just take. You just take. Knight c3 and then rook b4. And now there's no more knight a2. Because the other guy's there. Oh, that's convenient. Maybe another quarterback sneak. It seems kind of greedy going for another one with like king e5. Well, it's definitely worth considering. It's like a gain of 2 yards. We're making like NFL references to chess game. I'm not sure if I like c5 or not. But move 11 just... Rook b1. There's the quarterback. Uh-oh. Whoa, speaking of quarterback sneaks, this is like Randall Cunningham or something. What are you doing? King d4. You're going too far now. This is definitely not Tom Brady. Man. You know, I actually thought you could have blockaded at some point with rook a5. But it's entertaining. So he has to play, what? A different knight move? It doesn't look like he has a great square. I mean, objectively, he could play this. Rook a3. Man, king d4 is amazing. I didn't see he had knight d5 even. No wonder he didn't see it. But it's an extremely logical move. But I mean, clearly, like, knight d1 is not a good move. This is not a good idea. Now you're just, like, going to be up a pawn and an ending. Maybe now rook here. But then you have rook a6. It looks like he's still hanging on. I mean, rook d1, rook a6, e5. Pawn takes pawn, rook takes c5, and it's probably a draw, objectively. It's probably a draw. Somewhere we lost the thread. But now the fear of outside passed pawns. Maybe rook b4? Not again. The king again. Here's your other majority. This is majority 1 and this is majority 2. The silent majority. Chess Bath. They used to have tournaments here in Hungary. I don't think they have. They used to have like marathon tournaments where they've like held in a sauna, not a sauna, but you know, a bath place. That would be cool. And now, objectively, move 11 should probably play like rook a3 here, guaranteeing 2 connectors. Let's see. Shoot. Rook a3 is the only winning move. He was afraid of the other outside pass pawn. He has this clinical fear of passed outside pawns. But I would have confidently played this, given you this one. Check. These pawns are very far advanced, you know. And your king is good. I mean, you have to be winning. There should be no reason to hesitate here. h6 gives him a series of checks, and he didn't do it. Now it might be a theoretical draw. Yeah, you just didn't find it. What happened there? d4. Not rook d6. Oh my god. You win by a tempo. c3. You don't win. Oh man, I thought you were winning. That's sad. So rook a3 was the easy win. How could you miss it? I love how you played this out like 117 moves. Wins on time. You won on time. I like how it says wins on time. 1/2 wins on time? Excuse me? What? Wait. How does that work? Can someone clarify that for me? 1/2 wins on time. No. I don't think so. How do you win on time when it's 1/2? Well, you didn't win, you know. Wait, it should say like time expired or something like that. The wording is dumb. Nobody won anything. The wording is just stupid. No, that's like the official like lichesS thing it must say when you save the game or whatever. That's stupid. Wins on time. They got that from Wikipedia chess or something. Alright, noobs. Run the chess site. That's what happens. So now I've got a few people left. Cheesemate, Mickey, and we'll see what we got time for. I've got about 30 minutes left. I gotta go in 30 minutes at the most. So, Cheesemate the Cheese. Cheesemater. Change your name to Cheesemater. The Cheese Grater. Alright. This is against Mr. Morse. Yeah, you made me remember this game I lost to this guy. Oh my god, I never thought it would come back again. One of my relatively rare upsets. Can't remember, maybe at the Boylston Chess Club. I was a master and I lost to somebody who was like 1900 or 2000. It was a major trauma. I'm pretty good at beating weaker players usually. I try to put those bad games out of my mind. The lowest rated player I ever lost to was like this, since I was a master, was this like guy, I don't remember his name, but he was like chewing on a huge cigar. And he was rated like high 1600s or 1700, I don't know. And I don't know, man. That I'll never forget. Don't speak of my embarrassing losses. Alright, so this is Cheesemater. Sicilian. I've been having good success with d5 takes, queen takes d5, d4, bishop f5. This is my favorite, which I brought to popularity, by the way, 10 years ago. I take full credit for the popularization of this variation. It can also be played in delayed form, maybe on the next move, with either knight c6 or bishop f5. I didn't invent the variation, but I did bring it to popularity. But Aaron has played knight f6 instead, which is considered by the cognoscenti to be black's best line. I'm honestly not convinced that knight f6 is better than d5. I mean, look at the statistics here. It's so close. It's so close between actually all those two moves and e6. But it does bear out, like black has one less percentage winning percentage with d5. With knight f6 is 28-28. With d5 it's 28-27. And with e6 is 29-28. I have like the worst score against the c3 Sicilian. That was what ChessBase used to say if you would do like a player profile. This is a long time ago when I had ChessBase, but the last time I checked it was like, oh, play the c3 Sicilian against him. He loses every time or something like that. So I was really good against the Dutch and bad against the c3 Sicilian. Alright, so this is a little bit unusual. I mean, normally white's playing the d4 first, or knight f3. So the trick in this variation is there's a line I lost against that too. With c4. This move 11 might know a little bit about this too. This was recommended, but it's very dodgy. I mean, it's very, very sharp. This line with c4. I lost to Kungabor or some kind of player in a first Saturday. Maybe not Kungabor, but one of the players in the first Saturday GM tournaments, like 15 years ago. I remember losing badly. So c4 is not, it's the main line, but it's extremely sharp. So you're safe for like playing, I don't know, knight c6 or d5. It looks like the Alekhine a little bit. But d5 is the safest line. Chess Ebra says I used to study white side of it. Cheesemate said I play knight f6 so much I don't have to memorize. So I don't have to memorize so much? Are you kidding me? It's just as bad or worse than d5. If you don't want to have to memorize so much, you should probably play like something like d6, like my friend Emil plays. I mean, this variation at least is a little bit more, like, or less explored. My friend who's an IM, he made reasonable results playing d6 just to get out of book. But seriously, knight f6 is extremely theoretical. I would think like you'd have a headache. Bishop c4, knight b6, bishop e3, d5, and now, okay, takes is like main line. Let's see, takes, queen takes, knight f3. So this doesn't quite transpose back into normal lines. I mean, if you play knight c6, right, I think we're going to transpose back into something normal. More normal. Like knight c6 castles, bishop e6. Isn't this pretty common? There's something slightly weird about white's move order, right? I mean, normally white doesn't play bishop c4, so you'd have more commonly like knight f3 on this move, then d6. Or knight c6, bishop c4, right? Here. Now knight b6. Now bishop e3. Now like d5. Now takes. Queen takes. Knight a3. Bishop e6. Yeah, I'm surprised how few games there are here, actually. I find this kind of variation very confusing. This is just analysis. Your opponent played d4. I don't know anything about this. So, yeah, it's similar to an Alyekin line I just saw. Alyekin. It looks like you have take, knight c6, and then bishop f5 with a good game. That's what you did, right? Takes, knight c6, or bishop f5. You played bishop f5. I think you should play knight c6 first, because he might make a mistake and play knight f3. And then like bishop g4 is extremely strong. Objectively. Maybe you should wait, you know, to give white one more chance to make a mistake here. By playing bishop f5 right away, you know, he could... I guess he could then go knight f3, although it's probably not a great move anyway. Alright, this is fine. Bishop f5, he does knight f3 anyway. Blocking his f-pawn. e6. I mean, you might later go bishop g4 too. Yeah, you're fine here. I was looking at something like this the other day with one of my students, almost the same exact position. He did, this student of mine didn't know exactly what to do, so he started to do like a5 on the queen side. But that doesn't seem appropriate in this position. I think... yeah. It doesn't seem appropriate here. I mean, b5 is weak. I mean, castles is fine. That's your move. White plays queen e2. And now Cheesemate decided to play risky with f6. It's interesting, like, he just played queen e2, kind of eyeing your e6 pawn. And in that moment you decide to play f6. Which optically looks kind of dangerous, to say the least. I don't know, knight b4 is possible, right? Knight b4 is possible, but it's probably not a big deal. White can just play knight e1. There's nothing there. I don't think queen e2 is that bad. So there's various things you could do. I mean, this is an ordinary move. Like, it's like a Slav, basically. Of course, knight b4 is an idea. There's also knight a5 in some positions. You could also play like bishop g6 and just kind of hang out. a6 is a good move. Also just waiting. And my interpretation of this position, and it's a Slav, it's a common Caro-Kann structure. White is just kind of overextended, and it's hard for him to do anything. Bijak, I just said knight b4. Queen e2, knight b4, knight e1. And then there's no d3. I just said it. We just answered that question. Knight b4 is kind of no big deal. White just goes back. Anyway, his knight is getting out of the way of the f-pawn there. That's not a real plan. If black played aggressively with f6, my concern would be this and g4 or something. But you could possibly even sacrifice a pawn. That's what the guy does. He plays g4. But maybe he should consider taking first. Like, we would normally play bishop takes, but then white has g4. And we've got to look at every possibility, maybe even sacrificing a piece here. But I don't really see enough. So, you got to sacrifice a pawn now. But that might not be that bad. You know, I mean, white has like totally weakened his king side. So anything's possible now. I mean, even just like king h8. It's possible that white has weakened his own position significantly if you sacrifice a pawn. So I would be open-minded to that. But I definitely wouldn't play f6 unless I calculated this stuff out ahead of time. Because you don't have to play f6. I mean, you have all these like relatively ordinary moves. White has a hard time threatening anything here. And what's he going to do? He's kind of overextended. Like that plan with knight e1, that might actually be... Well, he can't do it because he's tied out. So he has to play bishop e3. And then try to play something like knight e1. You know? Secure d4 and then try to play like knight e1, f4, g4, f5 or something. Your knight on b6 is bad. So black isn't obliged to play f6. You have to calculate this. g4 here, takes. So this basically happened. Bishop takes, queen takes check. And now, you know, obviously you can play bishop f7, but why? King h8. So this is exactly what happened. Yeah, it looks like a reasonable pawn sack by black. White loses the initiative. His knight is loose. His king side is weakened. His queen could get trapped. You're actually threatening to trap the queen right away with rook e8. I didn't even realize that till now. So, yeah, I don't know what to suggest. I mean, knight takes d5, for example, bishop f7. That wins a piece. It's very hard for white to find a good move here. g5 would give him a square. Then you have like knight takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4. And white is very seriously overextended. So he plays this reasonable move, guarding the knight, guarding d4, not getting his queen trapped. And now black plays queen c7. This is a very important move for black. Queen d7. Clearly an option, keeping this protected and attacking g4. And you got to calculate stuff like this, takes, d4. So you're pretty sure queen c7 was a blunder? I mean, there's no doubt you have compensation here. It looks like excellent compensation. I don't know if you're better. Yeah, it looks like the kind of blunder I would make. I mean, if queen d6, that's a good active move. But you might get attacked by knight b5. I don't know. Maybe this is a better version of the move. I mean, I want to bring the rook across, and so do you. And this is the main idea. We're connecting our rooks and preparing for rook e8. And this would keep d5 protected. Okay, let's see what the computer says. Queen d6 is second best. But we both missed knight c4. So this move attacking his queen, if he takes, I mean, he's basically fried on the white squares. He doesn't have a great retreat square. I mean, like e2. Then d4 is dropping. So he basically almost has to take it and take. And then you're just bearing down on d4. Something like, yeah, you've got bishop d3 now. So d5. And there's your bijak. I think now knight b4 is a pretty strong move, dude. Now we're really talking about... That's suddenly very dangerous for white. So yeah, we both missed this knight c4. I think this is natural, but you have a better way to do it, you know, with queen d6 or queen d7. So now he takes. I'm sure you still have compensation. The question is how much. 2 pawns down with the initiative. Yeah, I mean, it sucks to lose the tempo here. You got to look at everything. Maybe rook d8. 2 pawns down, we're pretty committed. Bishop takes d4, knight takes d4. I don't see anything here. There doesn't seem to be anything. But I still feel like you have compensation. I mean, if we have to, we'll play rook d8. Then I guess he goes back. At the very least, you have this, this, and this. I mean, even if white has the bishop pair, you still have active pieces. You know, maybe you're worse, but you're not necessarily lost. You have threats like rook d3, bishop e3, rook d3, threatening this. I mean, you still have a lot of activity. Yeah, so queen c7 was a mistake. You know, also maybe this is not a no-brainer. Maybe rook e8. Right. No. I mean, this is just what I was going to get to. In retrospect, the plan to play rook here was probably not best, so you should just play rook d8 right away. And if he gives up his bishop, man, I mean, his white squares look extremely weak. However, you take back here with the pawn. I wish your bishop could go to like d5. But maybe queen takes? I gotta believe that you have compensation. Even 2 pawns down. Computer says white is better by better than a pawn. But only on one move. Like, he has to play perfectly. You know, most people are not going to play this position perfectly. Computer actually likes this better. BC with the idea of c5. I mean, your bishops are brutal. And his kingside is weakened. I would not lose faith in your position here. This idea of taking and undermining his center, you still have compensation. This is such a natural move, though. So it's like you need another lever, like h5 or something. I mean, is it crazy to play h5? It's pretty much crazy, right? I mean, you're gonna like get in as much or more danger than he is if you do this. I guess you just have to move your queen, you know, like you did. I'm not sure he should trade his bishop off, honestly. Yeah, this is like that other variation. 2 pawns down with a chance on the white squares. Do you have anything like bishop f3, rook f3, bishop d3? This is kind of desperation. Bishop d3, rook here with the idea of rook f3 or something. Threatening that. I mean, you're close to losing, but maybe not. You know, like suddenly he's getting mated. I mean, anything's possible in ops color bishop positions. You know, it's conceivable that you got an in here, or at least you'd have practical chances. It's still a game, even though you're 2 pawns down. It's not a bad place to be if you're down material. You did try h5. This is obviously double-edged. Yeah, it's a good move. Yeah, now, although your king can... You know, in this position, your king can actually move over to g8. Yeah, I mean, if I'm white here, I am not really thrilled with the move f4. I think, like, f3, if it's plausible, would be a wiser decision, but maybe he just doesn't have the option. You got a pin. That's a pretty strong pin. I don't know, king g2. Check. Rook f2. Doesn't seem to be anything here. A little bit too short of threats. So he's wide open after f4 though. Seems like unnecessary risk. Now his g2 is weak, giving you some chance. Man, that's crazy. Takes on a7. I guess there's nothing though. King g8 trades queens. Nice move. Now there's not nothing. No, I mean, I love ops color bishop positions. You're totally back. Dangerous pass pawn. The cheapo. So he has e7 here. What happens if e7? I'm assuming this is like time pressure. Can somebody tell me what happens after e7? Do you play like bishop g6 or something? e7, rook g4, e8 queen. Not digging that. Rook f1 check, king f1. And I'm not enthusiastic about that either. So queen e5 was bad. You have rook f3 maybe. Or then maybe it's not enough. I wouldn't be surprised if you have something here, but you gotta bear down on g2. This I just don't think it's enough. He has queen h4. Wait, there's gotta be something here. Yeah, you have rook f1 check. King f1. Rook f1 check something, somewhere. Where's the move? Rook f5? You have crazy moves here. Like rook f5. Doesn't threaten anything. What's the deal? It's a draw. Oh man, I didn't see rook d3. Rook f5 is second best move. Rook d3 is really a draw. In that position. Wow. So after e6, rook f3, he has queen b8 check. I missed it. Doesn't work. You had to find bishop d5, which is really hard to see. I mean, clearly it looks like he can play rook takes d5. Then you have queen c1 check. Amazing. So bishop d5, queen a2. You have a number of moves. Very tactical position. This is a mistake. He has e7, right? Yeah. e7 is winning. In this position, I don't know. What are you going to do? Take the pawn? Take the pawn. That's game. You might survive now. He doesn't have a mate. You got queen h6. That's what took me so long to see that you have this move. And this is a draw. Probably. But I don't like him having this outside a pawn. It's actually not that easy. I wonder if you should take with a king. Theoretically. It's not obvious to me which way you should take here. I'd have to calculate. I mean, he has almost like mating nets with bishop d4. You're very lucky you didn't lose. I mean, now a4. And you're still significantly in trouble. Are you lost after a4, actually? I guess you play rook b7 and you can try to hold on there. It'll probably hold. I mean, it's close, though. I can't believe he didn't play a4. I thought this might hold. You're on the verge of losing even this. So I think here you make a bad mistake. Can you keep the rooks on? I mean, keep the bishops on? I guess you can't, huh? Never mind. So that's his whole idea. He wanted to force the rook ending. And you just don't have a choice. But this is just offering a draw. He can't lose his a-pawn. Wow. No, I mean, after a4, it's really touch and go. I don't know. You could be lost here. It's very close. Like, your king can't approach his position. You have to go try to get into there. It looks very tough. By the time your king goes h3, he's over here. Alright, last game, guys. I got 2 more games I got to do. Very quickly. I said I would do Mickey. Where's Mickey's game? Wrong study. Why can't I do a back arrow? It's weird. Alright, Sparkle Horse. Learn, study, last games, quickly. Thanks, Cheesemate, good battle, but you should be able to take out these guys. What was the time control for that game? Although a lot of people are underrated, you know, nowadays. My studies. So we've got Mickey in the study or not? I couldn't get your game in the study. Alright, here it is. For analysis, quickly. Just 5 minutes for these last games. 45 plus 5. Okay, it's a good excuse. This is Mickey position, rapid from position chess with black. From position, I just have 5 minutes for each of these last two games. Mickey and the other one. Wow. 3 inaccuracies, 43 CPL. Oh, so I'm trying to go back to a position that's not there. So this is starting position. King's Gambit. E takes d5, bishop d6. This is a main line, like, declined. King's Gambit. I've probably played this with black. I'm sure that I've played 97. Kamran Shirazi versus Yakovenko. Yeah, man, that's... Yakovenko is tough, dude. That's a tough opponent for Shirazi, who's like a maniac. Yakovenko, you can't get much more correct than him. Knight e7. So it turns out like the knight e7 is a main move according to the Opening Explorer, but the engine doesn't like it. I think I've played this myself. The computer says like knight f6 is a better move. But when you look at the engine, it's like, no, knight e7, or when you look at the Opening Explorer, knight e7. It makes sense, like you're playing knight e7, knight g6, knight f5. I also did the same thing. So the point is, like, I guess if he tries to play c4 too early, it's counterintuitive. I've looked at this. So castles, you can't do like astrobate, like check here. It's too dangerous. Yeah, that's interesting. So c4 anyway. And knight g6 I would have played, I guess. Knight g6 I'm sure I played to relieve the guard of f4. But Mickey tried to hold it up with b6. I never really like expected that sort of thing would work. There's a game from 1995, Janez Barle from Slovenia. Famous player. I don't think he ever got the GM title, but he was a quite strong Slovenian player from Mickey's country. Did you say you played him before or something? b6, knight e5. Yeah, you drew him. Okay, in last nationals. Yeah, I thought somebody did. So this is a weird move. Like, White's not developing their pieces. Okay, I guess he underestimated b6, which looks like a weird move too. This is a 10-minute game. He moved his knight again. It's very unprincipled. Now he's finally developing, but he's got to be careful of like queen h4 check. I would seriously play queen h4 check if I were you. This can't be a bad move, right? What is he going to do? Walk his king over here? Seriously? Is it king d2? Yeah. Funny, the engine says you didn't make a lot of inaccuracies, but queen h4 check's a good move. This is even stronger, wow. Rook e8. Now you did queen h4 check on the next move. But he has f1. Yeah, I assume he would have walked away. King f1, knight d7, and he just couldn't get in his c5. So the b6 is like a novel approach. And you're never getting trapped. You can always drop back. Right. And I don't really want to trade queens, to be honest. But your queen's protected. Wow. So you had f3. Yeah, that's beautiful. He can't trade queens, he loses a piece with check, but he didn't know what else to do. Yeah, that's crushing. So you just want a clean piece. You're actually threatening bishop a6. That was a nightmare for white. And just trade and simplify. Momentarily just have to defend, but you're up a whole piece. It really shouldn't be a problem. Your technique was a little shaky here. Definitely a little shaky on the technique. And there goes his structure. And it's enough to win. Okay, good game. Yeah, that's destructive. I made the same move, 97, in Blitz myself. not knowing the theory that well. I'm sort of surprised it's not black's main line. Okay, so Gomez was the last one. I was not going to get to Sergey and Big Dummy. I mean, these games will be included for next week. Serge and Big D. I've got to go. So last game quickly here is Gomez. Let me open this and put it in the study. The earlier you submit the games, the better. You gotta send them to me privately with $1 million donation. So this is Juan Gomez Garcia. This is a live game. So mainline, Joko Piano, D4, E4, and then I think this is best for white. He seems to know his openings pretty well. This old line doesn't seem to really offer white much. Although Dubov played B4. I don't know if many of you have seen this crazy game that Dubov played. I don't know if it's in there. But the Dubov Gambit, or whatever it's called, is pretty fun. E5, D5, Bishop E5. This is like mainline. Knight E4, CD4. And now black has two moves. Check or Bishop E6. I prefer Bishop E6. But this is a mainline too. Here. Now A6. That looks slow. This is not a Max Lang attack. It just looks like a Max Lang attack. Or are you talking about something else? Oh, you used to play a lot of King's Gambit and Max Lang attack. Okay. This is not a Max Lang attack. This is Joko. Yeah, but you're not talking about this. Okay. A6. Yeah, that's a very slow move. So black needs to castle. Get out of there fast. So he goes there, takes, and now... Tempo is important. I mean, white's threatening, I guess... Sorry. White's threatening Queen A4 here. Maybe not really a threat. But regardless, A6 is a very costly move in terms of time for black. I mean, I guess she didn't want to, like, have her structure destroyed with, like, pawn takes. But maybe black could still hold on to that pawn with Bishop F5 and Queen D5. I mean, I guess here the real danger is something like this, like take, castles, and black just has like a bad position where he's blockaded on the C file. I mean, the basic nightmare is where it's like, you know, good knight versus bad bishop in a simple position where there's no counterplay at all. That's the fear, you know. Really simplified position where black's pawn structure and the C5 square are bad. I mean, this seems weird to me. You know, another time-consuming move. How can black play moves like A6 and Knight G5 and get away with it here? I'm not sure about Rook E1, though. I mean, this square is so well blockaded. You're just making a square for your knight, I guess, but it seems like white should have something else here. Something simple. You know, why don't you just, like, take, blockade that square? Something simplistic for white, I would think. You have Queen A4 now? Just take Queen A4. Isn't this just winning? Bishop takes D2, Queen takes C6 check, and you win the rook. There's a Bishop H3, okay. It's not so simple. It may not be that simple. But what does he play here? How is he going to get to play like Bishop H3? He would have to play King E7. And even that doesn't work, does it? I doubt this works. Someone was suggesting knight e4. Yeah, I mean, so this is clearly a good position. Knight g5 is way too slow. Queen a4 right away. Or knight g5 followed by queen a4. But I mean, black's move is suspect. She has to castle here. I mean, whatever. You know, if the pawn structure is destroyed, it's destroyed. And black has some chances with the two bishops, maybe. But clearly this is a blunder. This is a mistake. You didn't take advantage. You know, and so now you don't have much. I don't know. I mean, white's better now. Again. She has to try for counterplay with f6. And this looks bad. Black's basically lost now. The dark squares. Bishop g5. Yeah. And then carve your way in there. I mean, black had another chance to go back a minute. You know, black had another chance to play bishop back to e7. This is totally reasonable. She could still defend the king side with like bishop f8 later. So here, and then here, and now here, and now here. And again, the last chance is f6. I guess here you could play e6, but it's not sure that that's right. Once she misses that, and now bishop h6 is a threat, I don't know. It looks bad. The Artie Lang. There's also bishop g5, right? Is this even stronger? Gomez just needs to improve, you know, tactically. I think he's very good in openings and positional play. Just work on the tactics. This is a problem, though. Queen g4. You'd have to take time out to play like h3. Black's still crawling around. So I guess bishop g5 is not really good. Driving into d7 doesn't help. You have to play bishop h6. Here, here. And now black with queen d7, threatening this. Bishop f6, and now queen g4. Queen g4 allows queen e3. But black's still hanging on. Queen f5. You have an outside pass pawn. Better ops color bishop position. h3 is reasonable. Grab the pawn. King is safe. But lost the central pawn. Grabbed another pawn. Going for mate. And then check. I didn't want to lose that pawn on d4. How did this happen? You took the bishop on a5. You know, maybe this is actually a funny mistake for white. I wonder if you don't take that bishop. It's hard to break through, though. Queen f4. You got no way to get over here. So, tough game. How much better is white here? Basically close to winning. This was a mistake. Queen e3, queen h5, h3. It's not so easy to win, though. The computer says it's a winning position, but that's not easy for a human. Practically speaking, it's got to be a very narrow path to win this. Defend h3, play g4 somehow. You know, that's what you got to do. You're actually threatening g4 now. Oh, no, okay. So this works. You're threatening g4. He can't, or she can't defend. No, there's nothing to do now. It's g4. The queen got trapped. It takes a lot of work. It looks like he he played it misaccurately. Or he played it inaccurately. Rook c1 here, and then losing d4. Too much counterplay. Trading queens is not great. White still has an outside pawn and some back rank mating chances, but I imagine black can probably hold. This is a little greedy. I mean, rook a4 looks safer, but probably necessary. Is there any back rank mate? Man, that bishop on e6 stops everything. No way to play for back rank. There's your back rank. And then a7. White wins. But why did white win? Because of rook b7? Why did white win? Because of bishop g5? Black resigned here. It's not that easy to win, is it? Black resigned very early in this position. I don't quite get it. I think they should fight on. You know, it's not that clear to me. Alright guys, I gotta go. It's very late here. Thank you for the game, or for the games. For submitting the games. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Thanks, Mr. Coffee, for your support and for everything. Astrobate, all the regulars. Rook b7. No, the problem is like rook b7, c1, rook b8 check. And you could just play king h7. You don't have to take on b8. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not sure. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Thanks, everyone.